Thanks, Josh. Thank you.
Next month, we moved, which was 2 months ago. And about a year ago, she bought a house in Taylor, over off Gresham. Yeah, we moved there, and it was small town. And it just
So how is the building, how did it hold up when it got really cold?
Well, we dripped the faucets, and it held up pretty well. The only part that was frozen was from the kitchen sink wouldn't drain. So there's probably a frozen pipe between the drain down that side of the building and here. The sink was about to overflow. And so even though I dripped it as small as possible, it was full. And so we had to bucket it out. I did it once and Ray did it, and then so there was someone. I didn't see where it froze, but hopefully with the skirt that won't happen again. They did some, but not all of it.
I think they did the wastewater pipe as well. Oh, okay. Well, you're right, the skirting will make a big difference because you have so much heat loss because of the wind blowing out of the building. Yeah.
Well, at least it's not a leak. It's not a leak.
Yeah.
I won't tell you where, I just finished an audit.
We were spraying, they were waiting, so I thought about it. This is pretty good. I asked him if he was going to spray all of it. Not really. 25 mile an hour wind.
Well, it's only an inch and a half.
Well, that should be funny with that kind of foam, though.
If there's bare spot.
One spot, yeah.
The time is 6:27. If you would like to sign up to speak, then you need to do so in the next 3 minutes. And the sign-up sheets over there with Miss Robin Bowles is our clerk tonight. There's like 15 agendas, and there are like 2 packets. It's pretty thick, but you can look for the packet online.
Be nice. You've been there. I actually cannot answer questions. The council hired me. So I don't think most people think that happens.
There's going to be the sticking point over here. Where's the motor? Where we slow down?
Just a little housekeeping. The poor clerk is having to make cards for everyone because a lot of folks aren't even looking at the agenda. If you know that you're not going to speak on something, please don't put all of them down, okay? That makes a lot more work for her, just a little housekeeping. So, I mean, you certainly can speak on every item, but if you know that you're not going to speak on, just don't put that one, okay? It's a lot of work for her.
Well, we might not know whether we're going to speak on that until we hear what they have to say.
There it is.
Okay, the time is now 6:30 p.m. We're going to call the town council meeting to order. Robert Miss Robin,
She's coming.
you coming? I'm coming. All right, can you take roll call, Miss Robin?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Let's see. Terry Fowler,
Here.
Mike Jaffe,
Here.
Mayor Tara Sinkovich,
Here?
Jonathan Blake,
Here.
Tom Anderson,
Here.
and Simeon White.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, and quorum is confirmed. At this time, we have Pastor Kevin Kelly, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Let's rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God Almighty, we just want to thank you for the opportunity to gather together tonight in this place that you've provided for us in this town of Poetry, Texas. And I pray, Lord, for your favor and your grace to be in this place and upon your people, upon the elected officials and those who are present here tonight, that we would conduct ourselves in a manner that honors and glorifies you, that our discussions, Lord, that you would just give us discernment and wisdom in the conversations that we have, and that all that we do is to you and for your glory. We pray these things in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and all God's people said,
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, so at this time, we'll go on to items of community interest. Kaufman County is hosting several cleanup events for all the Kaufman County residents. Our Precinct 2 residents can go to the 12051 PCT Circle, I'm not sure what that stands for, Forney on February 3rd, June 10th, October 5th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mattresses, furniture, appliances, trash, and recyclables will be collected for free. For more information, you can see the handout, which is in tonight's packet. There's also a handout that's over here in the vestibule. We want to thank Sherry Vincent for typing the minutes. Thanks to Brian and Sherry for taking down the Christmas tree and decor. They spent hours doing that. Thanks to carpenter David Burke for donating his labor for some miscellaneous items and installing the assembly room TV. It's on the wall behind me. Thanks to Becky Carter and Todd. They're going to be working on the solar light poles out of Town Hall. We got them out of our closet. So, at this time, I'm going to allow Councilmember Tom Anderson to say a personal note.
I just wanted to update everybody on my wife's situation, because I know some of you know, but not everybody knows. Well, I guess first in October, she had a heart valve replacement, which went well. Everything's good. And I missed one of the meetings because of that. But then after that, she started having some problems on her left side, some numbness and weakness on her left side. Thought it was spine, went to a couple different spine doctors. They couldn't find anything after MRIs. Finally sent her to a neurosurgeon, or a neurologist, who then did MRIs and found out she had a tumor. So went to a neurosurgeon who actually did a biopsy, and the biopsy came back and it is a tumor. It was malignant. And so she's going to start radiation and chemo Tuesday, and it involves like 5 radiation treatments over 2 weeks, and then chemo, which is basically 1 week on every day, 1 week, 5 days a week, 5 days, and then off for 3, and then that continues on for 12 months. The good part is they think they caught it early. The other good part, they said, was women tend to be more responsive than men, and so they're hopeful that she'll respond okay. It's going to be a long, tough year for her to go through, but anyway, she's determined to do it. So anyway, she said tell everyone she just wanted y'all to know and appreciate your prayers and support.
Well, we love Evie, and she certainly has our prayers and hopes for the treatment will go as well as can be expected. So Evie has volunteered for well over a year or 2 as our clerk, and so I know that we're going to be missing her during this time. So, Okay, thank you. Under reports in our regular meeting, we have the December end 2023. Our deposits were the amount of $28,544.99. Withdrawals and debits, $1,706.63. Checks paid, a total of $19,616.74. Beginning balance was $76,680.29, and we ended on a higher amount of $83,910.91. Our sales and use tax report, we have, of course, that is encumbered funds that goes entirely to the road fund of 6010 and 6100. And so we have in that road report, it's a total allocation amount of $68,895.09. The January, and remember it hits the first the first or second Friday in January, and that is $9,297.01 is what that was. So, okay. Report from legal counsel. So I was asking our attorney, and I've received some emails and some phone calls about people who had some wrong impressions. So he felt like he gave me permission to read this letter, and so that's what I'm doing, and he suggested that we actually do this. So he says the town of Poetry has seen an inordinate number of petitions from property owners seeking to have their property released from the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction, significantly more than what I have seen in other cities. I believe this is due to two factors. One being that the town is new, and there are still a number of residents that continue to oppose the incorporation. The second is from a misapprehension of Texas law relating to annexation. The ability to annex territory without the consent of the landowner is a power that was once held only by home rule cities. Historically, only home rule cities could annex land over the objection of the owner. General cities have never had the authority to annex land without the consent of the property owners, except where the general law municipality provided a utility service. But even then, if a general law town annexed land without consent, because it provided utilities, the owner had the right to compel disannexation. The legislative trend over the several past sessions has consistently been to reduce the power of annexation until the most recent session, where the power was removed completely. Today, annexation cannot occur without the consent of the landowner. It has taken the legislature roughly a decade to reach this point through successive amendments to the legislature, to the annexation statute, so that the final abolition of non-consensual annexation came as no surprise. The likelihood that the legislature might one day reverse itself and reauthorize non-consensual annexation is extremely remote. The chance that our legislature might go so far as to allow non-consensual annexation by general law cities, which it has never done before, is just imaginary. If the legislature were to repeal SB 2038, he had a typo. The result would be meaningless as it relates to annexation. Given that Poetry never had the authority to annex in the first place and doesn't have the authority now, whether land is in our or outside of our Poetry's ETJ is simply not relevant. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and give a report on the trash transition report, we call it. So we have had significant changes in the last couple of months. So I'll go ahead and read my statement here on this. The town council voted to go with Blackjack exclusively on Thursday, November 16th. On Friday, November 17th, I immediately put out a statement stating our decision to do so on social media and our town's website as a pop-up on the first page. I wrote letters to the other two services in the town stating that their last day of operation in the town for polycarts and small dumpsters would be December 31st. December 11th, Blackjack wrote a letter which we posted on our website and put on social media. Once the final agreement was voted at December 21st meeting, the last week in December, Blackjack sent out postcards to all Poetry residents stating that they had partnered with the town for exclusive service with their number to call. Councilmember White and myself designed, ordered, and posted 4 large signs and 3 banners around town the first week in January. The number we anticipated was about 450 unique customers in poetry. Before the end of the year, the number was under 200. With the holidays, Blackjack had 1 extra day to service from this normal Thursday, Friday service to Friday, Saturday services. Dick Demeen's communication has been excellent. He let me know when the service jumped up over 400 the first week in January, then to 422. Then it was 468 as of the second week in January. As of this morning, the number was 489 unique customers in the town of Poetry. That is a record high. The best number in the past 2 years was a total customer base of 421, the best that we can ascertain. This is an improvement of 13.9% overall to date. We have reached our stated goal. I have had 2 email complaints and 2 came in to ask questions about the transition. The number of complaints I personally received about the trash in the previous 6 months about prior service primarily was well over that number. Additionally, I've had at least 6 people say thank you for going with Blackjack. I believe the transition has gone better than I anticipated. Blackjack provided the address list for accountability before the January 10th via email and hand-delivered their check on the Thursday we were open. They are fully compliant at this time, and they have been refreshingly communicative. Additionally, when I asked them to pick up a stray mattress on the intersection of 249 and 243, they did so within 1 day. On a side note, those who are wrapping up payments to cards have told me that they have received additional billing for the first quarter of the year, despite cards knowing that they could no longer operate in our town borders after December 31st. We need to let our citizens know that they can and should ask for a full refund if they paid in advance for this year. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. We have the minutes from November 16th, 2023 meeting.
I had a couple of edits, if we can move it to the regular agenda.
Okay. We have a motion by Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Anderson, seconded by Blake, to move the consent agenda November 16th to the regular. We'll call it item A. My pen will work. All those in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. All right, on the consent agenda, the second item is to pay our legal bill of $390. Is there a motion to pay that one?
Motion to pay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to pay our legal bill of $390, and a second by Blake. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Item A is the minutes from November 16th. What's your comment there?
Okay, on page 2, item 2, this, first of all, the third sentence says, Citizen Brian Vincent voices desire to decline exclusivity. Citizen Sherry Vincent vetoes no exclusivity. I don't think she has a veto. I think she desires no exclusivity. Then coming on down where it says Councilman Anderson makes motion to accept contract, it should be accept, A-C-C-E-P-T, not accept.
Where is that line?
On where it says about 2/3 of the way down, it says Councilman Anderson makes motion to accept.
Okay,
It's not, it should be accept.
you're correct. Yep. So not everyone is good at editing, but we know Council Member Tom is really good at it. So thank you. Anything
And
else?
there was one other, I
Okay.
think, and that's on item 3. The last line says Councilman Blake makes motion to accept HVAC bid with addition of Wi-Fi thermostat up to $10,000. I thought it was $10,500. Is that, I may be wrong, but that's what I remembered.
I don't recall.
I know the bid, the one that he gave us was 9,200,
Right.
and then we were, I'll have to go back and look at the,
I think we upped it to
we may have.
$10,500.
Okay,
That's
we can check on that.
some cushion.
We want to get it correct.
But I'm not
Okay.
positive that one, but that's
Okay.
all.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Is there a motion to accept with those amendments?
Motion to accept with those amendments.
Thank you, Robin.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Blake, seconded by Anderson to accept with the said amendments. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item 1. We have with us our guest, Miss Debbie Taylor of Murray, Pascal, and Caperton regarding the required annual town audit. She's going to give a presentation to the council, and she will not take questions from the public. She is hired by the council, and therefore the council can ask questions. So.
Well, good evening, all. It is good to be with you again. It's just to let you know, the audit went really well between last year and this year. I think we've got a really good working relationship with Tara, and Teresa also helped a lot. And so we're just appreciative of their hard work and their help. You've got some good people on board to help. So I'm just going to quickly go through the audit. It's since you're still a small town and there's not much going on, there's not a lot to talk about, but I'll just quickly go through. And so if we just walk through, the first page is just the title page. The second page is a table of contents. The third page is the elected officials page. And then we get to the most important page as far as the council and the town members are concerned. This is our auditor's report. This summarizes our responsibilities, your responsibilities, but mainly, was it a good audit or not? And our opinions paragraph is the second paragraph, where we say that the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities and each major fund of the town of Poetry as of the year end. And that means you passed. So everything was good. We'll just kind of keep walking through. After the letter is, it's called the Management's Discussion and Analysis, and it just kind of is a narrative of what's going on. And the main thing on this is the financial highlights section. If you see, the town's assets exceeded its liabilities by $221,000 plus. It's called your net assets. That means that the money you're bringing in is more than the money that's going out in a long-term fashion. And compared to last year, your increase in net assets was about $80,000, and that is the result of your new sales tax revenues that you're getting. The second section talks about your capital assets. The capital assets that you have obviously are your land and this building. So you're now, with the additions from the 2023 year, you're up to $136,000 in capital assets. And then the second thing, it talks about the unrestricted net assets. That means funds that are available to pay for the services of the town and the citizens. It's not capital assets or restricted to some other fund or other things like that, which you haven't come across yet, but you might later. And an example would be somebody gave you money for a specific purpose in the future. You would call that restricted, and that would be something that would be a little different. After the management discussion and analysis, we'll just kind of keep flipping through. Y'all can stop me if you have a question. I'm fine with that.
Can we talk about the
Sure.
unrestricted net assets?
Sure.
So, I'm aware of what that is, but as far as our sales and use tax monies that we bring in, is that not gonna be restricted assets because it has to be used for the roads?
Well, I would think if you're restricting your assets for longer than a year, you might consider that. But mostly the funds you're going to bring in, you're going to spend
In that fiscal year?
in that fiscal year.
Okay.
But you don't have to.
No. And I'll clarify, do a little research on it just to clarify. But off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking. It's just within 1 year, and so you wouldn't need to. But I'll research it and let you know.
Okay.
Okay, so after the management's discussion and analysis is the financial statements. And I'm just gonna tell you, I'm a little old school, so the name of them now is the summary of net assets. Old school, that's called a balance sheet. Some of you who took, know what I'm talking about. And looking at that, probably the biggest thing you wanna look at, so if you just kind of walk down, it's a good comparison year over year. And you see your cash at the end of '22 was about 38,000. At the end of '23, it's the 67,000. And again, your sales tax receivables, your sales tax income. On your receivables, what that is, why that's a big jump, it went from 8,000 to about 20,000. So the state of Texas, I'm sure you've noticed, they don't pay you your sales tax till 2 months later. So we accrue that money so that it shows the income within the fiscal year that you actually earned it. You haven't received that yet, but you, as of year end, but that's what was due to you from the state. We talked about the capital assets. I think later on you'll see that we've kept that in construction in progress because you still have items to finish on this building. So it's not depreciating yet. And let's see. Your franchise fees bumped up a little bit. Of course, your sales tax obviously is about 50,000. And then your donations bumped up about 3,000. Your expenses about 10,000. And then your net assets bumped up pretty well. Let's see my little cheat sheet. No, I got that. So that kind of covers the management discussion and analysis. Then, I'm sorry, the management discussion analysis does have some tables and things in it, but the actual statements are on page 11. The statement of net assets is your balance sheet. The next page is your statement of activities, formerly called a profit and loss statement. And then you just have some, the explanation between what is a balance sheet for governmental funds and the statement of net assets is in the beginning of the report, if you want to read that on the description of the difference. Then you have a reconciliation that shows how they fit together. Changes in fund balances. And then another reconciliation. And then the good part, on page 17, your notes section starts. And what that is just a good in-depth description of different things on your financial statements that gives more information. It even, talks about what kind of city you are, what your reporting basis is. And I think that does it. The last thing you would have after your notes is on page 25 is your budget versus actual. And I did figure I would go into a lot of discussion on that because this is from y'all. Y'all should, this is things you discuss. But if you want to ask me something, I'm more than willing to talk about it.
So we discussed this last year. Help me understand the capital assets as far as the land.
Okay.
Just my basic understanding, an asset's something that can be sold or something that can be leveraged. But we can't do that with the land.
I believe last year the decision was you were going to talk to your attorney and just determine what you wanted to do about that.
Because I don't, it doesn't diminish our financial abilities, but I'd like to see it listed somewhere else, just because I don't see it as an asset. And I didn't know if we went back.
We did talk to the attorney, and he agreed that it was an asset.
Do you have that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
Yep.
look into that.
Yeah, no, that was already
Because
settled.
we can't leverage it, we can't borrow money and use it as collateral, and we can't sell it.
And I couldn't speak on the legalities of it. I can only speak on the value of it as far as the appraisal.
I
that we
agree with
had.
the value of it, but as as far as naming as an asset, it's not a liability either. I think it could be noted somewhere else. But we can't borrow against it. Our fiscal health, if you took that away, it's not diminished, but it's not 221,000 anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd like to talk to the attorneys about that some more. So if you have something.
Okay. Any other questions? And as always, if you think of something like after the fact, you're free to email me and let me know, and I'll look into the restricted part on your. Yeah, because I want to look at that anyway. I was like, I've not come across a city that actually restricted their sales and use, so I wanted to look into that. I'll let you know.
Restricted it.
Well, we're obligated
To
to
use.
use it on the roads and right of ways. So in my mind, that's a restricted asset. We can't use it on anything else.
It's an encumbered fund. I don't know if the restricted is the right terminology for that, but it has to be used 100% for our roads.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
You're sure welcome. It's good to see all of you again.
Thank you.
And enjoy the freezing weather tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
And this is coffee.
Okay. I know Teresa will be glad to have all that behind us. It was pretty
She
intense.
did fine. She really did.
Well, having that scan snap machine sure helped. All right, thank you, Debbie. All right, so we have citizens to speak. Dell Bryant. Pass. Tracy Hibbs. Pass. David Emmerd.
Pass.
All right, moving on. We have number 2, listen to presentation from Street Dynamics, discuss and take action on a solar-powered speed and communication device for roadways to collect data needed for grant applications for road work. So, Mr. Stephen, you can put this up there. I don't know if you can. So, I met him at the October Texas Municipal League conference, and I was racing through the one day I was able to attend, and it intrigued me, especially when we were, after talking with Mr. Alan Donnan, who is behind here and who will also be speaking, the data capabilities of this were just very intriguing. So I thought, let's have him come and tell us a little more about it.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. Good evening, citizens. From our conversation at the TML show, it seemed like that's what you were looking for, was more of the grant capabilities, more so than just a speed limit sign that flashes at people to slow them down. So what I've done is, in addition to just the full brochures and the folder there, I did some sample reports. I live out in East Texas in Upshur County, and there's a state highway right in front of my house, so I just went and mounted it out there and got some data and just ran some sample reports, seemingly what you guys would be interested in, just so you can kind of see how they go. These signs they're customizable, so you can get them to where they're just going to show a speed, the speed limit of someone going past it. You can also get them to where it can show text and graphics. If you want to put information out there to the public, slow down, freeze coming, something like that.
Flood zone.
Flood. You can actually attach flood sensors to these also. You can attach up to 3 different flood sensors and have them go out up to 1,000 feet, to where once the water reaches certain levels, it can change the sign automatically to where it says road closed, turn around. In addition to that, there's a traffic data collector built in that's running in the background constantly. Even if you set the sign to just be blank or just always say drive safe, it's counting cars that are both coming and going, and it can break it down when you run the reports up to 5 different sizes of vehicles, and it'll do speed versus time of day, how many vehicles are going over the speed limit in the 85th percentile, what times of day are vehicles coming through this road. So it can really give you a lot of data that, as we were discussing earlier before the meeting, That's what they want for grants. They want to know that, yes, there is a need for it because you do have traffic coming through town. You do have this many oversized vehicles coming through town that are, tearing up whether it's the farm to market roads or it's the state highway or, state maintained roads. So the first section there, starting with the blue, again, these are just some of the samples of the reports you can get. If you need to present this for grant funding, you can show the GPS location, how it fits in within the town limits. It'll give you total number counts of whatever reference sample you wanted to use. If you wanted to show them a week's worth of data, you could run a week's worth of reports. I just did one day, and it shows when I started it and when I ended it in 15-minute increments. I'm not going to get too in detail but the amount of different reports, if you like pie graphs, it can do pie graphs. If you want bar graphs, charts, just straight number counts. The ones that you're seeing in the front are coming from our website. So you have two options with these signs. You can have them where it actually has a 4G external antenna built into it, and you can subscribe to an annual service where you can access the sign from any laptop. As long as you have internet service, you can log in. You can see real-time data. You can download reports. You can change the message on the sign if you need to. The other option is you would actually have to go to the sign, and you can Bluetooth connect to it and use either an app on your phone, or you can actually plug up into it, open up a program on your laptop, and download the data that way. So the last set of reports in here, the last 4 pages, are just from the manual download. It just looks differently. The numbers are exactly the same. The numbers are going to give you exactly the same. It's just a different program that you would have on your laptop to do your reports rather than doing it all through the web-based program.
I have a question.
Sure.
For instance, Poetry Road, if there was a sign at either end, could we determine with 2 signs what the through traffic is as opposed to local traffic?
You could if you took those 2 total number counts on approaching and receding and then just use the difference.
Okay.
I mean,
Because
because if
there's not anything in the program that would do that for us.
because if you just have one sign out there, it's going to count all the receding and all the approaching, and it's just going to give you totals. If you wanted to know how many are actually
Going through.
coming all the way through, then you would run a report, say, Monday at 8 a.m. until Monday at 5 p.m. What were the approaching on this sign, and what were the approaching on this side? And that way you could know how many vehicles are actually just driving all the way through versus stopping.
Did you say you can distinguish between heavy-duty trucks versus cars?
You can. It'll break down from like 18-wheeler size down to like box trucks, pickup trucks, sedans, and then motorcycles.
So
5.
with Jonathan's question, you could further break that down.
Sure, yeah, you could run it just for those vehicles and see how many, I just want to know how many of this size vehicle is coming through. And all of that's, you can pre-program the sign to run what's called a survey. You can go and actually say, okay, I'm going to run a survey, I'm going to start it at this time, end it at this time, and I want it to look for this, this, and this. Or you can just let it run and just take that data and meet it out however you want to. And just say, okay, I'm going to take all the data that I got and I'm going to run the traffic volume matrix report. I'm going to run the speed density report. I'm going to run, speed versus count versus time. I mean, most times when you're using traffic data or a traffic data collector or one of our speed trailers that moves around, it really takes a minute for people to figure out what data they really need, because it'll bombard you with just numbers. And so you can go through and say, well, I just want to look at this report and see what this gives me. Okay, well, what if it gave me this? Well, there is another report that'll add to that. So it really can provide truly more information than you would probably ever need. But the ease of which it's able to be downloaded is the best part of it. Like I said, especially, the online thing is great, don't get me wrong, I play with it all the time. When I'm home, I'll set it up and go out there and I can change it. Over Christmas, I had it say Merry Christmas until they started speeding, then I had it start flashing red and blues at them, so there's,
Is this a lease program or we buy
it's just a purchase, yeah. These products, the Street Dynamics products that we do are generally just purchases.
So this model here, now, when I saw it at the conference, it was on a platform, I guess, or,
It can be mounted, what it's gonna come with, and
because it
I'll
was a
show
lot taller than that. It
Sure,
wasn't
this
sitting
is
on the-
just the display, and it was actually this one,
Was it?
but it'll come with these brackets. It'll just be a front and a back bracket, and it'll come with whatever mounting hardware to put it on whatever pole you want. If you wanna lag bolt it into a tree, you can lag bolt it into a tree. If you wanna put it on one of those breakaway signs, you can put it on a breakaway sign.
If it's solar run though, you wouldn't want it under a shady tree,
No.
right?
Correct.
So, okay.
And as far as, that brings up a good point, as far as power options, if you have some place that you already have AC power, it can be run off of AC. You have the option of getting a solar panel and either having a battery box that mounts below it just to hold the battery, or you can also get what they call the battery backpack, which you basically have 4 compartments that you can put small batteries in. I actually do have some customers that they like to move it around, and so they don't buy solar, but they buy the battery backpack with 4 batteries, and then they just buy a couple of extra mounts, and then they can just go move it around town and then get numbers wherever they want to. So it's a little bit difficult to move the entire solar and everything, but they kind of like the fact that they can, and then they just take it down, plug it in for an hour or two, let it charge the batteries up, and then go put it back out there.
Okay, so price, so this unit, as is right here, what does that run?
This is so you have 3 different sizes, 12-inch, 15-inch, and 18-inch, and that's the size of the screen. This is a 15-inch,
Okay,
and it's fully decked out with everything you can get, and that would probably be around $5,000.
okay, and then the battery backup, or the battery backpack that you were talking about, do you know what those run?
That's what I'm saying. As if this was a battery backup.
Okay.
Battery backpack, fully loaded, is around $5,000.
Okay, so with the battery backpack?
Correct.
Okay, it's 5,000.
What's the life on the batteries? I mean, how long will that operate before they need to be recharged?
It depends on traffic, but if you had 2 batteries in there, moderate traffic, you'll probably get 10 days to 2 weeks. That's with moderate traffic. I mean, you put it out somewhere where there's just, because it's powering not only the sign, whatever you have. If you don't want it to display anything, you just want it to gather data, it's not going to use the batteries as much. Obviously, it's LED, so it's not going to use that much. But if it's constantly having to flash speeds and change back and forth, then that's going to burn through the battery by itself significantly faster.
And then is it rechargeable then?
Yeah, the batteries.
So-
You can actually there's just little doors. You just stick a key in, unlock it. It's just like the old alarm batteries that you got in your house. You just bring it in like a little $20 Walmart battery charger, plug it up, let it go for a couple hours, it'll fully charge. Then you just plug it back in, slide it back in, shut the door. So you can actually hot swap batteries also. If you want to have it out for a while, have 2 batteries in there, have 2 batteries at the ready, and then you can just go swap those out.
You mentioned being able to access it over 4G. Does it have a GPS locator on it?
It
So if
does.
somebody stole it, we could track it?
As long as it's powered on.
Okay.
Yep. If you notice on this report, it actually gives the GPS coordinates. So whenever you log in, and you just log in through the streetdynamics.com, you would be assigned a, login name, and then you can create user accounts. You can create permissions where this person can view the data, but they can't change anything. This person can do that. And like I said, you can log in and see exactly where it is. Again, change it if you got text and graphics. You can change the way the idle display works. If you wanted red and blue strobes to slow people down, there's a simulated camera flash to make people think you're taking a picture of them if they go too fast. I mean, there's, like when I said custom, I mean, it's really, you can get just a basic speed limit sign with a traffic data collector, or you can get something that, can really do more than just collect the data. It's designed to end up being something that's, community relationships. Like you could say, welcome to poetry, and just have it say that as your idle speed and really not do anything until someone hits a certain threshold. And one thing that you might not think of, you can set the upper limit of what it will display as far as speed limits. And that way you can keep people from trying to break the sign.
Oh, gotcha.
Someone who decides, hey, I'm gonna go through and see how high I can get it.
Our roads do that for us.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in a small city that had roads very similar, so I'm very familiar. But yeah, that way you can set an upper threshold. So if the speed limit's 50, it's not gonna show anything over 60. It's still gonna count it, it's just not gonna display it.
So then, yeah.
So it's still doing the counts, even if you have it set just to display nothing, it's still doing its counts, it's just not showing anything.
So it sounds like it's very versatile.
It really is. Again, it all depends on what you want to use it for.
Do you have a list of towns that have purchased it for grant work specifically?
Specifically for grant work, I can get that. A lot of times, I deal more with police departments because we also do like radar, and they generally just tell me, my mayor wanted me to get this, so I just do it. So they've obviously discussed it and know what they're going to use it for. Usually if it's a public works thing or the mayor has requested it, then it's something to do with road counts or number counts, and being able to get some grant work done.
Okay, so the reporting mechanism of this, so say if you said there was real-time data, you could do it from a laptop. Is there an additional expense for the reporting mechanisms?
That is included in whatever the annual subscription
And what
would
is
be.
that?
I believe the annual subscription is $599, and that's as many users as you want. And that's gonna allow you to, like I said, log in and control it, do whatever you need to from anywhere.
Do you have to do a full year,
I think they only do it year at a time.
a year at a time?
If you wanted to do it for the year and then decided, hey, we can actually just go out there, we don't necessarily need that access, then they'll need to configure it beforehand, but it doesn't add any cost to configure it to be able to actually retrieve the data. On the back of this, there's these two little ports down here, the USB and the computer. So if you were to use your laptop, or you just wanted to go and plug up USB drive and let it download, that's just how you would do it. You just put in a USB drive with a light, let it start flashing. Once it stops, then you've got all your data. Go back to your laptop. There's a program that we provide as part of the, it's not an extra cost. It's called Easy Analyst, and you can put it on as many computers as you want to. Get the data file, and then you can run all these same reports. And you can create your own homepage or your own cover page, have the town logo, do whatever you wanted to. But all the data would still be the same, whether you're getting it through the subscription, through the online, through Street Dynamics website, or just going out there and downloading it yourselves.
So you save $599 by doing it yourself?
Correct. And you get the benefit of being able to change it If it's cold, you
So
don't wanna
from
go
your
out.
laptop, you could change it, if you have the subscription, you can
can
dial in and
completely
change
control-
it and control it from, so it's more than just the reporting mechanism, it's the,
Correct.
from the front end. Okay.
Correct. It's complete control of that sign from your laptop,
Gotcha.
anywhere that you have internet access. If you're on vacation in Los Angeles and you said, oh, I need to change the sign, as long as you've got internet access, you can go in, log into the website, and it'll send it, because it pulls off of it doesn't have to be a provider. A lot of signs, a lot of places, they say, well, you need to get a Verizon card and stick it in there, or this pulls from every cell service out there. So it doesn't matter if T-Mobile has better coverage out here, it'll pull from T-Mobile. If Verizon has it better, it'll pull from that. If it's AT&T, it'll pull from that. So
That's
the
nice.
4G aspect of the sign itself isn't based on what kind of coverage there is. It'll pull from whatever it reads. And like I said, then you have full control over it. Turn it off, reboot it.
What's the minimum signal it has to get on a 4G?
It'll pick up. So I live out in the country, and sometimes I just will need to log in and reboot it. And when it reboots, sometimes it'll pick up better. Over the holidays, it was kind of rainy a couple of days out there, and it wasn't getting a really great signal. So for my access to it was kind of dicey, but it never stops collecting the data though. As long as it's powered on, it's collecting data. So as long as there's power to it, it's collecting the data. Your availability to access it might sometimes depend on what the coverage is wherever that sign is. It's kind of similar to the whole solar, like you were saying earlier. If you're going to put it in an area that you know is dead for pretty much everything, you might not be able to access it, or it might be better just to go with the manual download and just use the Easy Analyst program instead of the Street Dynamics program. But like I said, functionally they do the same thing. It's just two different ways of doing it and two slightly different views of what the report format looks like. Same data, same numbers.
If you wanted to update the sign manually, is that something you put on your USB drive from your laptop and then have it, say you want to change the maximum speed limit that it's going to display?
You can either pull up next to it, and there's an app for that, and you just connect to the sign through the app, and there's a quick settings where you just go in and it'll ask what the idle display, alert display, and violator display, and you can set that on your app. If it has text and graphics built into it, you can actually type in what you want it to say, and it'll just Bluetooth send it to the sign. After about 10 seconds, it'll refresh itself and start.
So you could still do it manually as long as you
Sure.
have an app on
And then
the
if you're really wanting to kind of program it, then you can take a USB cord, plug it into your laptop, plug it into the back, and control the sign from your laptop, sitting next to it. And just get a long USB cord, pull up next to it, and you can control it, program it, set the survey. You can schedule it. If you want it to say this from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, it'll say this. And then you want it to change at nighttime, it'll do this. You can set a calendar. So, I mean, and all of that is available whether you're doing the subscription service or the manual with the laptop.
Okay, I invited Alan Donnan, who, so thank you, Stephen. And hang tight though, if you would,
Sure.
in case we have some questions for
Sure.
you. You could probably just sit right there, maybe. Alan Donnan, I've asked to come. He has been successful writing a grant for, was it Wills Point? And so I thought that he would be a significant person to speak, so I'm going to go ahead and let him speak to this a little bit, and then if you had any questions for Mr. Barlag, then...
I do have one question for him. As the grant writer, your subscription cost $5.99. Is that per unit, or is that one thing? And if they have four
sign.
signs, okay.
It's per sign, and then the more signs you get, the number goes down.
Okay. I just That just came up in my brain as a question.
Good question.
Yes, I have written grants. I had a very successful grant that I wrote for Wills Point Fire Department. Well, it turned out it was misused, but I was successful in getting them $50,000 for communications grant, and then the mayor decided to remodel the city hall with the money. Didn't quite work that way. As a grant writer, I've been looking at many of the grants, both state and federal. I would caution this council that going to a federal grant, although it will have more money in it, is going to be more problematic. When the bean counters from Washington, D.C. come in, they have no gray area, no sense of humor, and it will take probably at least the majority of this council's all day dealing with them. Austin, on the other side, may come up, they may not to do their audits, they may call up and just say, hey, how are things going? I would advise, my recommendation is, even though the federal grants do have more money, I see more problems. You're a young city. Unfortunately, the grant that I've been waiting to come up, because they change it every 2 years. Basically, they open it in November. They close it in April. They grant it in May or June, and then you have till the following October to complete the project. So they give you plenty of time. But they also don't have the same parameters every cycle. I got really encouraged when I went back about 4 cycles, and it said, incorporated town in less than 5 years. I got really excited and was crossing my fingers they were going to do something like that. But what they do is they change the conditions of the grant so that they can get the money to as many different people as possible. The way the grant is worded this year, it's aiming more towards like Tyler and College Station, Waco, Hillsborough, little bigger towns with much more traffic flow. And one of the questions on this is rate traffic flow. They're not asking for a car count right now, they're asking for rate traffic flow. Well, poetry may think that 400 cars a day going down the road is heavy traffic. Is that heavy traffic in Austin? That's holiday day.
Yeah, maybe.
So the number, what these signs would take, whether you get 1, 2, whatever. I like the idea of a sign at each end. Who came up, was that Mr. Blake that came up with it? I like that idea, because it really lets you know how much through traffic you're getting. The nice thing about these signs is they tell us the quality of traffic as well as the quantity. If we're getting a lot of these big trucks, IFTA is supposed to, the federal government is supposed to kick down money for municipalities for the roads. The problem is, how do you get to them? They've made it to where it's real hard for people like poetry to go and get this. So one of the things that we would need to do as part of the grant writing is, as we get close to the grant writing and really starting to put numbers together, I see 3 entities that are going to need to meet with the council and with me. And that's going to be county commissioners, the state, for the state roads, hopefully somebody from NAFTA, IFTA, to meet with you guys so that everybody's in the same room at the same time, because what inevitably happens when you're dealing with these political entities, and I've seen this when I'm writing grants, you go and you talk to one person, then you go talk to the other person, they say, oh, that didn't happen. Then you go over and talk to that person, no, I didn't say that. Get everybody in the same room at the same time, there's no ambiguities. Everybody knows what the playing field is, everybody knows what everybody else says. Gives poetry the best chance for getting what they need. Now, as I said, when we start talking about car counts, that's gonna be what's really gonna help me with the grant. If I can take and say that you're getting, on an average day, X number of cars, and I know how many cars we're getting this many big vehicles, that's gonna get a little more attention than just me saying, yeah, we got heavy traffic. And we are dealing with politicians and they deal with numbers. And that's really what it comes down to. I want to get you guys the money and I will go wherever you ask me to go. But again, my recommendation will be let's go Austin first. And if they say no and there's nothing there, then we'll back up and we'll get our big boy boots on and we'll go ask Washington. But you let me know what you want to do. And I want to get you the money. I don't live in the city. I buy my grain from Tara and her people. That's really all I do. But I want to help.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
What do your services cost? They're not great.
Yes, they are.
Are they really?
Yes.
Wow. We can
We
afford
get for free.
Let me explain why. I'm a disabled veteran. I put 22 years in the Army. All of you
Thank you
all
for
of
your
you fine
service.
people pay my pension as a disabled veteran. So this is me giving back to the community.
We appreciate that, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, believe me, it's my honor. Terry, congratulations. You asked a $1 million question, didn't get the answer you were expecting.
I'm so happy.
Are there any other questions for me?
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I could just throw one more thing, just on the
Okay.
grants and on funding. Have you guys looked at CDBG? I know I retired from Cockrell Hill, it's a small town, but it's surrounded by Dallas. We got a lot of CDBG funding to fix our roads, and they were state highway, but they gave us money to fix it and we used the old school air tubes to get number counts. But community development block grants through the state can also be something you could look into.
Thank
One-
you.
Just a thought.
One quick question about the signs and that measuring the traffic. I assume that it can't, but can it tell which way the traffic was coming from?
No, because it's a radar-based sign, so
Right.
it can tell relative motion, but it's not gonna be able to tell, did it come from this street and turn down this street? All it knows is once it starts coming towards it, that it's coming north, south.
And that,
Can you tell whether it's coming from?
Oh, it'll tell approaching or receding.
okay, yeah,
So,
that's what I was asking.
It'll say, there's this many cars that passed by it going south, and then there's this many cars that passed by it going north.
And it will tell axles, the axle number,
It'll tell size of vehicle.
size of vehicle.
It's not necessarily gonna be able to tell you axle number, axle count, but it will tell you size of vehicles. And if you, on one of those reports, you'll see a couple of them, they say approaching, receding, and combined. So you can, when you run your report, you can say, I just wanna know which ones were approaching, or which ones were going away, or I just need to know total counts. So you can go in, when you run the report, and just click those boxes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
Thank you, Stephen. So we have citizen Del Bryant. Thank you, Mr. Barlick.
Dale Bryant. Do we know, excuse me, sir?
Thank you, Alan.
Sir?
Oh, Alan.
Alan, oh,
Miss,
all right, so we're looking at $5,000 for the sign, the fee, another $7,500, so roughly $12,500 a year, call it that. Grant-wise, just so we kind of compare numbers, would we kind of expect to see in a state grant?
In a state grant, anywhere from $150,000 to about $2.5 million.
Okay, so 10 to 1.
It's a lot of money.
It
Good question.
There's a pool of money, and what you have to do with this is you have to take what we know from the county commissioners, what the roads need. Take this, double it, add a little bit more. Case point, as I explained to this lady here, I needed $40,000 for my communications grant at Wills Point. I asked for 150. I got 50. And then I was told I got this nice 3-page letter of how to make that 50 work in my budget. Oh, I needed 40. So you gotta make, but it was easy for me at that point to show the need. All of the communications that we had, every radio we had, was at least 15 years old. None of it was the new technology. That was easy to show. This, and again, as I pointed out to this nice lady here earlier, is if I'm talking to somebody in Austin and I say I got high traffic for poetry is not going to be high traffic for them. So what we need to really make this is hard numbers. It's like anything else in this day and age. Raw data, hard numbers. You can't argue with them. Just if somebody walks up and shows you a tire and you got cord coming through, you can't argue the point that the tire is not gone. You look at a cutter on a mower for hay, and that blade is this thin and curved off at the end. There's no discussion of whether that's any good. I mean, there's no black and white. There's no gray areas here. It's all black and white. When you're dealing with an agency 5 hours away, there's going to be lots of gray areas because they're not here. And they don't see the roads. They're not having that rock truck going that way down the road while you're trying to take your pickup truck with your horse trailer this way, and there's no place for either one of you to go because the shoulders are so tore out. They don't see that. So what we do is we have to make numbers and photos and let them see it. And the numbers are going to be far greater than the pictures. Because we all know how busy the roads are out here. They don't. And yes, he made a good point. Back in the days when we had the 2 little air tubes that went across, it gave us how many times the car went across it, but it didn't give us any real data. It didn't tell us, we couldn't break it down any more than, we had this many cars. We couldn't tell which direction they were going. We couldn't tell the weights. We couldn't tell approximate sizes. Now, with technology being what it is, we can break it down more. And we can take some of that data, the big truck data, and we can throw this out to the federal government and say, you guys are getting this IFTA money on these trucks every year. How about our $15 a truck? A $15 a truck may not sound like a lot of money until you start counting all those trucks going up and down the road. So I mean, this is all money. This is how the grant system works. This is how getting money from, this is how we go to the orange and squeeze some juice out of it.
Okay, so Dale, did you have
No,
anything
I
else?
would just say,
Okay.
Roads are gonna be a bigger issue, and, we need, sounds like money well spent.
Okay. Tracy Hibbs, did you have
So I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I thought you said does it count axles or not?
It will not count axles, but it will differentiate sizes.
Okay, does it
So-
take pictures?
It does not take pictures.
Okay, all right.
The way the radar works is it sends out the signal, and then how strong that signal coming back is,
Okay.
it can differentiate the size of an 18-wheeler, the size of a box truck, a pickup truck, and so forth. And that's how it's able to break it down into those 5 different sizes.
So,
Yeah, it would view it would like a regular tractor, like it would view the size of like a pickup truck. It would see the same type of return from that, or maybe even a sedan, depending on how, what you're pulling.
So have you ever had any towns put like a game camera or something on it?
Homeowner associations have done that, in the past. The only other option would be to do like a trailer that has the LPR camera on it that's actually taking pictures. But I've had, there's nothing that says you couldn't.
Well, I was just thinking, if we're trying to get data, not only numbers, but pictures would be helpful too. When you show a 2-lane road that has edges worn off and you've got big, heavy semis passing through, it seems like you would definitely have some better, pictures or.
Outdoor camera,
Uh-huh.
and then splice it into the solar or run it off the battery. If you got the 4 battery pack with solar, that's gonna power plenty. Now, you're not gonna be able to tie into that 4G network, but if you had it mounted somewhere where there was a wireless router close by, then you could, there's a way to do anything. It's just,
Okay, I will.
we don't provide the camera aspect of it, but I could, in my head, figure out a
Okay.
workaround.
Tracy, did you have another question via your?
Do you have to have a specific software to, like if they were gonna download it themselves, do you have to have a specific software for that?
It comes with it.
Okay, so my next question was, so let's just, so you pull the data off, so what would the data read, like if it was a tractor trailer? So what would that look like on the computer? Would it say tractor trailer or?
It's gonna give you vehicle sizes. It's gonna say large, extra large, medium, it's just gonna differentiate by sizes.
Yeah, the reason I ask is the gentleman that does the grant writing, if that program is specific to large vehicles being tractor trailers, then that gives him a better ability to write the grant correctly.
Correct.
And us to get that CDI.
Correct. And you can go in and say, I only want to see how many extra large vehicles
Okay.
approached, receded, combined, and it will only give you the number of tractor trailer size vehicles. And then you can say, okay, I wanna know, so you can either run all of them, or you can actually go all the way down, differentiate between the sizes and just get those numbers.
Okay, so I have one more question real quick. So when y'all did Poitras Road out here, was that speed limit only, or was that, counting cars? I can't remember.
Well, we requested a tech stop to do a study, and it was, do you remember? It was mainly for the speed, I believe, and they did a percentile of the speed, and then they came up with the report.
So we could use this sign for our more county roads and have the state come in and do, because in the state's free, or do we have to pay?
We don't have to pay the state
So they can come out
kept
and
roads.
do
The-
car counting on.
I was specifically thinking of Poetry Road or 2458, 249, that area. That seems to be the number one road I get complaints on. Hands down.
Yeah.
So, so that was my thought, is on that
Well,
road
if we buy it,
specifically.
We can use it on all the roads in the future.
Would-
Yeah, TxDOT was a little bit slow.
It took a year.
while
It
to
took
get
them
out
a year to complete their study.
And by law,
So-
if you wanna reduce speed limits, they have to come out and it's on their time, they do their own
And
survey.
they did. And they took their time and they reduced it by 5 miles
Well,
per
I'm
hour.
thinking like 1565 and 986 and Porter Road, Leyland, or whatever it is. Because that's where a lot of the big traffic, as far as semis go. And we know they do the most damage to the roads. And so, by getting all those areas covered, would help us get our CPI money faster.
Right.
All right, and, okay, so, thank you. The next person who signed up was Doug Kendrick? Doug? You'll pass, okay. The next person was David Emmert.
Yes, one quick question. On the durability of the sign and mounting bracket wise, for being a temporary type use, will it be able to withstand high winds? You know how the weather is here in Texas.
Well, like I said, I had it on a telephone pole outside my house on the state highway Upshur County for a month. And Monday morning before I went out on the road, I went out there and got on the ladder, took it down, wiped it off, stuck it in my truck, so.
So do you think a telephone pole might be a good option
Well,
around here, the wind?
that would,
Uh-huh.
I got permission from my local electric to put it, because it's telephone and electric, but,
Right.
I would put it on if you've either got an already wooden pole, then you can just lag bolt the backside of that mount to it. And then it sets in place, folds down, and then you just run a bolt through and it'll just lock in place. And you can just, lock it in place.
Okay.
If you wanted to mount it on like a 4-inch metal pole that you just cemented into the ground, you could do that too. But again, it's gonna come with bracket with mounting hardware for you to put it pretty much wherever you want. Some people do it on just an old, 3-inch or 4-inch, pipe. Some people do it to trees. So it's really mountable wherever you want it. The only thing we suggest is it should kind of be about 9 feet above the road, just for its.
It's at the top?
How far off the road?
How far off the road just
Yeah.
depends on where y'all want to put it. It doesn't matter, because what's gonna happen is, if you say if it's 20 foot off the road, then, I'm not trying to get into too much physics here, but there's something called cosine effect with radar, where it's gonna actually read slower than they're really going. But you have to be significantly off the roadway for that to happen.
I'm just thinking what the state may require if we do it on 1565.
Well, as long as, if you've got right of way anywhere up to,
Yeah, but they have to have breakaway signs and things like that. We
No.
can't put a hazard,
right.
so.
Well, the sign that you saw it mounted to was a breakaway, or the pole at the TML conference. It's just a big one that we can carry around, but the base for that is a breakaway base.
Okay.
A nice big, square base with the pole on it.
Okay.
But again, especially if you've got, they're not gonna necessarily want you putting stuff on their part of it.
Yes.
But yeah, telephone poles, that's a perfect mounting for me, out in the country. In the city, you wouldn't wanna do it, but.
Yeah, we could probably talk, if we wanted on the road. I wasn't thinking that road, I was thinking Poetry Road, of course.
Yeah.
But if that were the case, James Atkins, I think he put up one of the signs for us. We just gave, they partner with us. I think they might be willing to do something like that if we run it by them. Okay, very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And
So,
you all have my contact info, so any questions, feel free
Okay.
to share that with anybody, and
okay,
I'll get back with anybody.
yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
So, I just want to hear your first thoughts on this.
I think we spent enough time, Tara, we need to move on.
Yeah, I want to move on,
We've
but,
got things we need to vote on, this is
Okay.
something that's down the road a long ways.
Real quick though, do we know if this can sales and use tax be used for this?
well, I put a note in, I believe so, but I want 100% confirmation. I put an email in, and I didn't hear back.
Okay.
Because it's signage, I believe it can be.
Good, well, that's probably the
Yeah.
most important factor.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, all right, so there's a lot to chew on there and think about. All right, so number 3, discuss and take action on either the 2 engineering firms presented last month with statement of qualifications by engineering firms R. Brumley of Exceed Engineering and of Burkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter, LLP engineering firm. We heard their presentations last month. Any thoughts that you have?
I'm leaning toward the Burkhoff and Hendricks and Carter, just because they have the in-house surveyor. I think that would be better suited to our unique situation.
Well, I agree, and I don't even think Exceed was qualified,
No.
because we had the 5 points on, that we sent out with the RFQ, and I don't think they really met the 5 points. And secondly, they didn't provide, they said they were professional engineers, but they didn't provide the numbers. That's illegal. If you're gonna represent yourself as a professional engineer for work, you've got to give the numbers. Now, I asked them that in the meeting, they didn't have it. Now, the other one did, Burkhoff, Hendricks, Carter. They listed all their numbers and the company numbers. I think they were qualified on all 5 of the points. I don't think Exceed was.
Okay, moving on to citizens. Dale Bryant? Pass. Doug Kendrick?
Pass.
David Emmerd?
Pass.
Okay. All right, any other comments before we vote?
Oh, also like Burkhoff. I mean, and their, their presentation was just phenomenal. They have so much in here.
I liked it when he answered a question and he didn't know, and he said he didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he can find out. I don't like the sales schmooze about, we know it all.
Well, let's hope they're affordable, but we have to vote and then
Find that out.
find that out. That's the way the state has the guidelines. So.
And the reason Burkhoff, Hendrick, and Carter was here because Tara had made a comment to Mike in passing at another meeting that she was out looking for one of these. So when she said that, I emailed her and reached out to the engineers that I know. So that's the reason they're here. We would have been just looking at Exceed, but these guys came highly recommended by a ton of attorneys and a ton of towns. And to your point, the survey in-house, Exceeding them, they said they use 3 different companies. It's going to be a nightmare for us.
And
These guys are professionals.
And they only deal with towns.
Now, can we afford them?
I don't know.
We can't ask them right now, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
So the way that it is written is that we have to vote on the most qualified for our purposes, and then we can ask the rate. And then if it's too much for us to stomach, then we have to move on.
That's right.
All right, so is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept Burkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter LLP engineering firm, seconded by Blake. All those in favor? And that passes 5-0. Okay. Number 4, discuss and take action on materials upcharged for ADA loop railing and change of contractor to Mike Durrett Welder for a total of $15.99. So in your packet, Tom had, okay, here's kind of the backstory. So we had approved $1,000 from a fella who who did the ramp, and then he ended up having to take a permanent welding job. It was too good for him to pass up. He actually took a $500 materials check. Then he took the job. He gave us back the money. He said, "I'm so sorry. I hate to do this to you guys, but I have to feed my family." And so, there is a fellow named Mike Durrett who is a phenomenal welder. And we've been working back and forth. Unfortunately, that's what I was doing before the meeting, is the picture, he have a picture on my phone, but it would not print even Josh couldn't get it to print. But by comparison, the railing that Tom had gotten 2 other quotes, they were around $2,600 for a similar thing, and Mike Durrett will do it. We've already taken it to the Texas Department of Licensing. We sent it back we've been working back and forth with them. And I said, okay, we want to know, before we do this, is this okay? And we've been going back and forth with them. And there's the Marcia, and then there's an Eric De Leon, who is, I guess, the case manager, and then there's the actual technician. So we've been going back and forth, and they have approved Mike's, I could email it to them, but I couldn't print it. But and so the big question was, okay, it has to stick out 12 inches from the current wooden railing. Okay, you can't retract it, because the welder's like, can we? I'm like, no, it has to be 12 inches out. But we can, at the top, we can bend it so it doesn't jet out as like a fire escape hazard. So you can, at the very top, turn it. So they approved our drawings, and so I think the price of $15.99. So he said it'd be $1,000 for his labor, and then he checked on the materials costs, and it was going to be the $5.99, and then there might even then there was some little pieces, and I said, well, I'll just chip in some donation on some of that, because he was taking quite a long time on because he was doing some other jobs and in between. But anyway, he said that he would be willing to do that. I think in the past he's done phenomenal work for a variety of folks, and
Do we have the drawing, Tara?
That's what I was having trouble
Oh, I'm sorry,
printing.
okay.
Yeah, I tried to get Josh to
So it's not the
print.
ones in the Tom?
It's
What are
not,
these?
but they're very similar. I can show
What are these
you.
quotes, Tom?
I'm sorry?
What are these quotes?
The two companies that will provide the materials, not installation.
Yeah,
We would
that's
still
just
have to do it ourselves.
So-
And which is one of my questions is, Durrett, is that $15.99 include his
The
installation?
installation.
So it's turnkey,
Yes.
where these other two, it's just the
Yes.
materials.
So, and I could,
Well, I wonder, but these are probably aluminum, right? I mean, typically these are aluminum with pre-made curves and
I think,
things and
I
brackets.
think one of them's aluminum, Mike.
one of them is and one of them carbon steel.
Not carbon, I think it's a type of galvanized or stainless, but I think one is aluminum.
Right, but I'm guessing our welder is gonna make them out of steel.
Carbon is what I believe we
carbon
talked
steel.
about.
Pass that.
He was gonna, paint it black. But the metal there that is black as well.
So cheaper and somebody local.
He is local. And these were, I think,
Nice.
trying to find it, you had to go all over to find the fellas that, gave us a quote that was much higher. And it wasn't even, it didn't even include installation, so. Anyway, so we did try and go through and ask, like, all the questions from the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation to make sure, okay, before we do this, are we gonna dot every I, cross every T, and have it just so? And it does have to come up on, onto the side of the building. So anytime there's a slope, you still have to continue your loop railing. You can't just end it. So that'll be continued.
And the picture shows it's just the railing, it's not the legs. There's no legs required.
There's no legs, so in order, and of course, we didn't think about this, but the way the railing is now, it'll have to just come into a nice loop, and even if you turn it a little bit, I said, okay, Marcia, is it okay if it's slanted a little bit? She said, that's fine. So, because the way it is, there is no other way to do it.
To
other than
return
this-
it.
To return
Turn
it, yeah, you have to slant it just a little bit to have a little bit of a return.
So he was gonna heat the pipe and make the bends himself, or was he gonna buy them already bent?
The last time I talked to him, I think he was gonna make it himself.
Just heat the pipe? Well, I guess that's acceptable.
And it is the 1.5 inch outside diameter, but
Inch and a half?
So again, Tara, just so we all understand, so the discrepancy between the original 1,000 and the 16 was the 1,000 contemplating him making like a donation or something, or is it
no,
just
the original fella underbid it, I think.
Okay.
I think he underbid it. Once he was realizing, okay, all the prices have gone up, he was not gonna make anything for labor. And this fella, he said, look, I'll do 1,000 for labor, but I'm not gonna do the whole thing because obviously the materials cost is eating that up, so, yeah.
Yeah, because I did go back and dig up the budget, and you're correct, we had $1,000.
But that includes the brackets and everything to attach to the wood railing.
Well, and
I'm
that's
guessing
where-
it's installed and painted.
I'm sorry?
I'm guessing it's installed and painted, right? I mean, like
That's-
turnkey.
Right, but it's not just the pipe, it's the brackets, the bolts, or whatever, everything,
Caps, I mean, it
Yeah.
should be the whole thing.
yeah.
In fact, I would say it that way, just to make sure this is turnkey, so it's like
Yeah.
fabricated, installed,
Installed,
painted,
everything.
done.
Okay.
Based on what's out here right now to attach to. We're not providing anything else, you know.
And I guess just to be official, he's gonna give us a letter, or this will be described in a letter that
I
we can
have,
approve?
I have it, I just can't print it for some reason, and like I said, Josh tried to figure it out, but we have it signed by him dated 1/15/24.
Tara, can you stream it to the TV? And put it up on the
I
TV?
could, but I'd have to take a break. So it's
Well-
TD Metal Fabricator, to Poetry, Texas, Hall 1/15/24. Supply material and all supplies and labor to fabricate and install.
Tara, one question, he said if he's gonna use new pipe or drill stem.
I
Oh, I
believe
bet
that's
this is
in
a new
here.
pipe.
He says,
It'd be thin wall.
he said the stuff that that you were potentially donating was a little too thin. He'd rather use the,
But the carbon, is it,
it wasn't that
New?
expensive. It is new.
okay.
He says, hand rolling from barn, from to your building by other and your 1.5-inch OD pipe with all brackets, elbow, flanges, and handrail bracket included in proposal. And then he says that, so that's all included. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get a call, Mike.
Say add painting to that.
Painting, yeah.
Yeah, we need it painted.
Or I can paint it.
Uh,
It didn't,
And
it
I
didn't
guess,
specifically say painting.
just to be official, I think we should put in there new pipe to be absolutely clear. This isn't something that came out of an oil rig, an oil platform.
Okay,
If it's that little, it probably did.
Yeah, not inch and a half.
Inch and a half is pretty tiny. I mean, it could be used chain link railing or something, but
Well, but it's still, just to say new, make sure we're
okay,
getting new.
new and painting. So do we have a motion?
well, and I wonder, just because we don't have a copy of the quote, should we maybe make it contingent on one of the council members just seeing a hard copy of it or something and putting their seal on it, or?
Well, there's the Mayor Pro Tem, what did he do?
Well, that's fine, I don't know, I just,
I think
Forward it
it's
to
fine.
him.
Mayor
Screenshot
Pro
it.
Tem.
yeah, it's not for this one, I wanna see us
Yeah,
sort of do things in a very consistent way, right?
Sure.
Typically, we would have the quote ahead, and I know there's sometimes extenuating surfaces, but not every circumstance can be extenuating. At some point, you gotta
yeah, that's
better
fine.
habits.
Are there public
Okay.
comments for this?
Oh, okay. Agenda item number 4. I don't see it. Oh, okay. Del Bryant? Tracy Hibbs?
Real quick. So, do we know if the perimeter is 4 feet? It has to be a minimum of 4 inches, sorry.
So we sent tape measurements, pictures to them. We answered all their questions. They approved everything less this. So
Okay.
everything was good.
So, that was just through TDLR, not ADA?
We aren't required to do ADA right now,
Oh,
so.
So is it gonna be round? Is it gonna be square?
The drawing is round.
Round tubing.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I believe
Okay,
it has to be round
David
these
Emmerd.
days.
Okay,
Yeah, I believe it has to be round these days. It used to be square.
you could do it square now. I know we went and saw an old building that had been abandoned and it had an ADA loop. Oh, there's loops, but it was square, and we were like, okay. So,
So are we done?
it's not allowing me to,
Well, that's okay. I make a
Sorry.
motion, we accept the $15.99 with the provisions that Mr. Jaffe noted.
with painting and it's new.
And you pick somebody to, on the council to review the letter and agree to it.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Anderson, seconded by Blake, to add in Mike Durrett, the welder, for the cost of the town of $59.9 turnkey painting and with using new railing. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay. Before we start in it, let's take a 5-minute break. 7:59, and we'll do So I wanted a chance to be able to put this up on the screen. I'm still learning the technology. So on our next topic, discuss and take action on project sheet H09R. That means revised for that. Last time, we wanted to have them separated out, so Commissioner Monroe did separate the quotes out. This is that first one, so it is 2464. You can see the hole that's dangerous is right here. And so, the road is fine, but the hole's right there. And I know one, Larry Harrison lives on that road, and he was suggesting that we just put some gravel on that road and save the money, but that's why we're here to talk about it. So, it says one culvert replaced using oil sand was $1,950, or using new asphalt would be $2,040. Recognize that the new asphalt will appear darker than the current road. Currently, that road is a very nice road. But he said, now I did talk to Commissioner Monroe. I said, so what, if you were ranking this, you see them all, from 1 to 10, where does this fall? 10 being the worst and most urgent. And he said it was about a 5.
Until we get more spring rains and it undercuts that hole undercuts the culvert some more. If we knew what the inside of the culvert looked like, that would give us a better indication.
You can stick your head in there.
No, I can't.
It's got a small indentation in it, and a little hole.
Yeah, that one's not the inside. Now I think, Mike, did you have some pictures of the inside,
Yeah,
or?
I shared them. I don't know that I have the inside, I just have kind of the
Sometimes that's the other one.
wide shot.
Yeah, so I spray painted that, because it is, I mean, it is quite the hole. And so something needs to be done. I don't know if we want to spend the $2,000 on it at this point. Maybe we do, maybe we don't.
To me, that kind of, a little bit to Jonathan's point, the tragedy would be that you got a really nice road, and once you tear up a road, it's never quite as nice again, like wrecking a car and getting the body work done. But if there were some way, and of course, we don't have a roads, streets department, whatever, to do this, but, to go in and maybe like excavate it, cut the end off, put one of those band clamps on it, and put a new end on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be done with it, because I don't know what the little ends, you can get sloped ends, you can get just pipe, and just, splice, because the other end has been attacked by a mower, right? It's pretty beat up, so. I don't know, I hate to cut up a good road.
Yeah.
And the inconvenience to the citizens and others, it's, and it's
Well, I
all
guess,
money.
you said citizens, I drove down it, there's only, 3 or 4 people that live past that?
Past it, yeah.
This is 2464.
Right.
Yeah, there's
How many,
probably
3? 4 people?
That one, I mean,
Probably
there's
6 or
quite a
8,
few
yeah.
people on the road.
And that's the conversation I
Yeah,
had with
Mr.
Larry
Bryant lives down
Harrison too. It's not a thoroughfare road, so it has reduced amount of traffic already, besides the residents and the delivery trucks. And this is the same repair I made on my own road and didn't even tell anybody. We put plate metal over the top of it and recovered it. I live on a rock road, it's a little bit different. Me and Mike was talking, could we take one of those band clamps and maybe cut the sides, put the band clamp across the top of it, pack the rock back on it, and see how long that gets us down the road.
Yeah, Eagle Hardware sells those.
Right, and it's a little sweat equity, and I was looking, and as far as you asked about those sloped ends, for a project, yeah, I mean, they're like $600 for that concrete one, so galvanized probably $300 or $400, but that's a lot more work as opposed to taking a band clamp, excavating a little bit, putting band clamp
I
over
think
it.
it can have a square end. It has a square end on it now, so I don't think it needs to be. I'm not a fan of the slope ones because they're ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Well, how much does it break down? I mean, is it only the top that's open? Because couldn't you just put a half pipe over it and metal
Well,
strip?
That's what I'm saying, take a band clamp and cut a third of it and lay it across the top of it.
Okay, I thought you were talking
Just to
about
protect the
whole pipe.
dirt and the rock from
Yeah.
continuing to,
Yeah, because the nice thing about using either a section of pipe or the clamp is it's got the corrugation, so it's gonna fit in there nicely, right? It's gonna lay right into the corrugations of the pipe. And I know in my experience, and Terry said he fixed one, I fixed a couple too, it's typically the top that, for whatever reason, everyone I've ever repaired, it was the top that was messed up, not the bottom, so. I don't know.
so that's an option that, I mean, the citizens are not that concerned. He said it still flows good.
Well, that's what I was looking at. It's like, it seemed to be flowing well.
Yeah, he said it flowed.
The hole is a problem. We need to do something, because
Yeah.
that someone could trip and break a leg.
And we
or
can look at
something.
it more. None of us are road experts. We might get Marty Murphy. You know, we tried to form a road committee at one point, Marty, but do we put excavate some of the dirt, put hardwood cloth, and put sackcrete across the top of it just to give it some kind of rigid top? Because we're trying to stop the dirt from continually washing in there.
Yeah.
Right.
And from somebody stepping in it, driving their small tired car in it.
You could put hardware cloth and urethane foam on it and put dirt over it and it would,
Yeah, I mean, something, I don't know how durable the foam was, but something just to give it some rigidity that can stop the erosion.
they put power poles in the ground with your.
They do, but they're fitted on all sides.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't mind digging into it a little bit deeper, but I think a band clamp and putting dirt back on top of it would work.
So you're saying like fix a third of it?
No,
Roughly, or-
the band clamp goes all the way around. Cut a third of it so you can lay it without
We
excavating
cut the
underneath.
clamp in half, so we have sort of two half pieces, and we just lay a half piece on and then
Yeah.
rock and dirt over it.
Yeah, it's obviously not severed all the way around.
No.
So are you thinking that maybe we get Commissioner Monroe to give us a quote on
doubt he
doing
would.
that? I don't know if he would do it.
He's probably in the whole deal, not repairs, so. I think
That's
it's
gonna be bonding time for council to go out there and hand
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
a little
That
tense.
might be good.
Yeah.
As long as the temperature is above 65.
But not above 95.
If you're doing a shovel, that temperature comes down.
Yeah.
Warm up.
Oh, come on, 50's not so bad when you're heavy labor.
I'll help out.
But I guess
I'll let you ship it.
my real comment was when I saw that, I said, you know, here's a ditch underneath 2434 that's far worse and far more dangerous than that. And it gets a huge amount of traffic and
Yeah.
people trying to cross have to stop. Somebody has to stop and let the other one come across. And it's far worse than this and a bigger drop off.
I think the repair costs on that were astronomical.
Of course, but I mean, that's by comparison, if we're gonna spend money on a really dangerous one, that's a really dangerous one, in my view, my opinion. This one with half a dozen houses, I think what Terry's and Mike have said is reasonable to patch it up.
Yeah, so we don't want to motion until we hear from the public, but tentatively Terry and I are happy to go out there and do a little.
Okay.
chipping.
Dale,
And I'd be willing to
And
help.
anybody else, but we'll
Did you
commit
wanna-
to the,
I mean, I've done this myself, 2 of them, now, on private road.
sound like we could have some experienced council members.
No, I mean, it's not
It's not
that hard, you don't have to be that bright, I guess I would say like that.
All right, Dale Bryant, you're on the list.
Dale Bryant,
Dale lives past it.
disclose, I live on 2464.
Yeah.
It's his road.
But
Past this.
past that.
Yeah.
And there's more than 6, there's about a good 15 houses on that. But it is a cul-de-sac, it's a dead-end road. And the road really is in pretty decent shape, to be honest with you. But I agree with Councilman Jaffe. I think the worst thing you can do is tear the culvert out, tear up the road, because that's just gonna make a mess. I agree with you, create some kind of a bulkhead with some backfill, and that's really all it needs.
yep.
Okay.
And there'd probably be enough people on the road that could offer that help too.
Oh, volunteers. Okay. Thank you, Dale. Tracy Higgs,
I'll pass.
Chad West,
I'll pass.
David Emmer.
Yeah, one thing, on your culvert, that's the way it goes. I had
Oh, it turned out.
You have the risk of using your phone.
It is,
or
it
whatever.
is.
Yeah, we're gonna see all your text messages coming through.
Well, that's not you, that's the TV.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
power it off.
Yeah, it's not you, it's a smart TV.
It's smarter than.
All right.
Anyway, when we first moved out here 29 years ago, the culvert going to my barn had 2 breaches just like this we're talking about. That's exactly what we did, except it was concrete, so it was a little bit more,
Yeah.
a little bit different, but yeah, don't tear the whole whole
Okay.
culvert out.
Okay. And how long did that last? I'm curious.
It lasted 10 years,
Nice. Okay.
and then I changed the whole thing out, put a metal tin horn in.
Okay, so that's all our citizen comments.
I don't think we need to act on it, because we just volunteered, and no motion for that, so
Okay.
if we don't do it, you can fix that as next month.
All right, so who's gonna be the lead on that?
Me and Mike.
Yeah,
All right?
very nice.
Okay, awesome. All right.
And we'll invite others, but
Okay.
up to them.
All right, item number 6, discuss and take action on project sheet H10 on CR 2446 for replacing 3 culverts for the amount of $6,300 for oil sand and $6,500 for new asphalt for materials and fuel cost. And I do have a picture of that one, but
Is that the right one?
I don't see the sign.
That's on 2446.
It looks,
We
it
got
looks,
different sheets and they had corrections and different numbers, and I just
Yeah.
lost track. I think the one I
So-
landed on was County Road 2446, which ties
Yeah.
into your road.
yeah, it is the correct number,
Through
but
Bridge Road it does.
Oh, that's
It's
right,
not-
yeah.
It's indirect,
Yeah, but you go all the way to the end.
a Bridge Road.
Right.
And
And it
it,
goes a little ways to the left to a culvert, or to a cul-de-sac, and to the right, it ties back into.
is
Yeah.
that the same one?
yeah,
Here's my picture. So this little, right here,
Yeah,
that's,
the pavement's got some little.
it's got an indention. I don't think anyone's gonna hurt themselves on that at this point, but how long is it gonna last?
Well, so it is the same one I looked at, and others may have looked at it too, but my comments are, I would guess that the indention is because they didn't compact the soil,
Yeah.
because those are huge pipes, they're 3-foot pipes, and that's a lot of dirt, and it's hard to get all the dirt packed, so I suspect the soil is, falling a little bit, and so if we wanted to do anything, I would maybe talk about skim coating the road, just put a little thin layer.
That's kinda what I
But
was thinking.
a neighbor, or not a neighbor, but a person I know and a friend happened to stop while I was taking the pictures and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, it's on the council tonight to look at these." He said, "They just put them in 2 years ago." He said, "They're brand new." And so I said, "Well, okay, we'll talk about that." So, but I agree, if you look at the road, it's like it's got some little wheels, but unlike the other one, there's no like dangerous holes on the side. I mean, they're brand new Kenmores. They're round, they're not even bent. You can crawl through them if you need to.
To me, I mean, just this little dip in the road could just be a skim coat, like
It's
you're
just-
saying.
I mean, it's
I
like a
don't-
lot of the other roads around here, the base isn't compacted adequately and the crust kind of breaks a little bit. But I don't think that's a sign that it's gonna collapse. I think that's just the asphalt giving way as the dirt settles. So I'd hate for us, $6,000 or $8,000 to do a lot of patches and
for
things.
2,002-year-old
Yeah.
culverts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those culverts are $1,800 a piece.
Well, I had a fellow email me about a year ago on the same one. I went out and looked at it, I'm like, this doesn't seem like much. And then he emailed again, I'm like, okay, we'll talk about it.
Well,
So
Tom said
that's-
the road used to be a lot lower, and they had problems with water, and so the county actually raised the entire road over those culverts. So they did a lot of work, but again, that means there's a lot of fill, and they don't have sheep's foots and things, I mean, they just kind of drive the
It's
truck over it.
settled, so,
So it's, I'm
so
pretty
is
sure
that
it's
something, that little patch, is that something that even the volunteer crew could do? Just
Well, I don't think
put
it needs to be patched, I think just watch it, I mean, if it turns into something, but compared to some of the roads some of our people live on, this is a great road.
That's what I thought.
It's a beautiful road.
Yeah.
They
I
would-
love going those
They would
roads,
destroy
yeah.
that road to take out 3-foot culverts. I mean, that's like putting in a bridge.
Right.
That's a big project, and so I say we pass and
Agreed.
leave it alone.
Okay, let's see
Right.
if there's any, Dale Bryant, Tracy Hicks, Chad West, David Emery. Okay. All right, so moving on. Number 7, discuss and take action on Smith's updated petition to release from ETJ. Number 7.
I'd like to hear from the property owner if we can, if he has anything he wants to add. But just will speed things up.
Just as a point of order, are we comfortable that we have, because I know there was some concern that we didn't have the whole packet and all that. Is everybody sitting here that's going to talk about this comfortable?
I've gotten everything from him.
Yeah, I've seen it all.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, it took me a while to put it together, because some of it we did have, we didn't have, but I have a lot of stuff. I'm sure you do too, so.
Okay. And just for clarification on that issue, on Tuesday, when I realized the packet was missing a lot of the materials, I forwarded my December 4th, 23 email to the secretary, which had the second petition for release with exhibits. And then I also forwarded my December 14th, 23 supplement to the petition, which also had exhibits. And as long as everyone has gotten those, then I won't really worry about holding up pictures of things you've already seen. I would say that at the original meeting, concerns were expressed by Councilmember White and Councilmember Blake about the meets and bounds, number one, and number two, that y'all really wanted a nice, clear, color-coded map. So the documents I filed this time around, we have color-coded maps, very detailed maps. We have the meets and bounds not only on an exhibit, but I went back and got the original 3 surveys that comprise the total 20 acres. They've got the meets and bounds on them. They've got the portion of the city limits that is not subject to being released, clearly marked and highlighted and everything. Other than that, unless someone has a question for me, I'll just let you sit down and do your business. Thank you.
Okay, Shelley's actually first on this list. Did you want to say anything, Shelley?
There was some concern brought up last month that there was a 20,000 resident minimum before any of this could be handled. And on September 26th, I personally talked with Mandy Salvo in Austin, who is Keith Bell's legislative director, and she said that that is absolutely 100% not the case. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Dale Bryant?
Dale Bryant, just so you'll know, on their petition, we also went down to TxDOT, and we have the maps of both Kaufman County and Hunt County, because part of the problem there was to determine the width of the right-of-way. And so we did all of that research, and I have all the maps if anybody wants to see.
Thank you.
So just curious, on that road, where does the right-of-way begin and end?
Well, along 1565, it's various widths, but right there, it's 100 feet. That's my,
100 feet from this,
it's 100 foot wide.
100 foot wide. So their property line begins where?
50 feet off
50
the
feet
center
off
line.
the center, okay.
Most of your county roads are total of 50 feet. But on your state roads, you know, 1565 is various. I think the widest part I found is further north, is like 120 feet. So it's different. And you know, when you drive 1565, you can almost see, you know, how it undulates.
Okay, Tracy?
I didn't realize that.
Doug, Kendrick?
Kendrick, I'll pass right now, thank you.
Okay. Chad West? David Emmer?
Well, no objections to it on the council, right? No problems? All right, well, I'll move to approve then.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the Smith updated petition release from the HEJ by White, seconded by Blake. All those in favor? And that passes 5-0. Okay. Number 8, discuss and take action on allowing voluntary annexation window as last year. So last year, we opened up for a window between January and end of March, I believe it was, for anyone who wanted to voluntarily annex. That just kind of makes it more succinct. And so here we are again. It's January now, but do we want to open up that window again?
Well, and to remember, Tara, that the window was more for us, so that if we had to do map updates, we weren't doing them year-long, right? So it's not that people couldn't theoretically apply at any point. We were just trying to encourage certain windows. Have you had, I think last time you shared when we discussed this, that you had some inquiries. Have you had any additional inquiries about people wanting to?
I have. That's another reason I wanted to you know, do you guys want to open it up for a certain period of time, or, again, it is for our convenience and the mapping, you know, because with any voluntary annexation, the requirement is that we do need to change the map pretty quickly, so,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
speaking for myself, I don't know why we wouldn't. I mean, if people want to join into the town, I think we should make it,
Encourage it.
we should accommodate that.
Yeah.
Okay, how much of a window do you want to provide? Last time it was 3 months. Do we want to maybe start at February through April, end of April or something.
I don't know, they might be busy with taxes, you might run through May or something.
Any other thoughts?
You know, I wonder if another option is to just, you know, they can petition anytime, but we just sort of review them every 90 days or something, right? Where, I don't know that somebody wanting to get into the town needs to happen like right now. I mean, I don't know, maybe it does, I don't know what the.
Well, like
It's not
in
like
the-
they're gonna get hooked up to sewer or gas or anything,
In,
they aren't.
in the
Right.
case of last year, it was, time was important to them. They were under a time frame. So it was important to that family. But it may not be for any future,
Yeah, I don't know.
needs. But it would kind of make it more succinct. We could advertise, hey, you know, because, you know, people will put things off unless it's a certain emphasis, maybe.
We could run a special.
So, we heard some time, we have a window, a 3-month window or 4-month window. Just to emphasize it, maybe we'll run it, post online, say, hey, if you wanna do this, some were talking about talking to their neighbors even. So, if they were gonna do it, they wanted to,
Are there fees associated with self-annexing?
we haven't set any fees.
Does it,
Well, but in fairness.
does it require the same scrutiny that leaving the ETJ does?
I don't think we wanna discourage it, but I don't think we wanna discourage ETJ petition removals either, so.
No,
Well, since we only had one that qualified, there were 3 people who inquired, but only one actually qualified. And it was, in that case, there was some work involved. We had to, go to legal. We had to, still have to work on the map. We've done that preliminary, but we have to go through and check on the mapping again. Then we had to submit it to the county. So it was a lot of my time. And then I, of course, hand-delivered a copy of it to the landowner. But, in that case, it was kind of a hardship when Kaufman County, divided out the section for property ID tax, you know, the property IDs.
oh, their lien holder.
Their lien holder was recognizing it as 2 different land, so they weren't wanting to insure all of the property. And so then they had to do that. So it was kind of trying to remedy something that was unfortunately happened. So in that case, but I don't know. I mean, I think we want to encourage people to annex in, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't charge a fee. We are gaining a couple things. First, sales and use in case they have any businesses in the back, or if they split up that property further. Not only will all the other properties now be included in something like a trash service, but also they'd have to be restricted by P&Z to not break their property into like quarter-acre lots and the like, which you could do behind the 311 feet otherwise. So, I mean, it's a service to the neighbors in general to have that protected against certain development if they annex in.
It would benefit
So
the
I'd hate
town if
to-
we had trash service, the electric franchise fee. It could be a benefit to the town in that respect.
But going forward, I mean, we had a long discussion about charging the fee for the ETJ petitions
Right.
based on actual expense incurred by the town, right? We were trying to recover, but, so how do we argue that this will still incur cost, but we're just gonna eat it? I mean, I don't know, I'm not saying they need to be at parity necessarily, in other words, equal, but.
That's what I was saying, is it the same cost? Are we,
Well, you would think, I mean, you gotta make sure they're moving property that actually is in.
so we have the
something
attorney,
that-
is the attorney's,
Somebody's gotta review the survey, somebody's gotta look at the documents,
Yeah.
somebody's gotta update the map.
Well, I think you could argue that the town's getting something out of people annexing in. Like, we get something that's not financial, but it's something that's actually useful to us.
I don't know,
You know, I would
I'm not
pay,
proposing one way or the other, I'm just raising the question, just cause I can imagine somebody is gonna think that way and say, well, wait a minute, it looks like the ETJ fee is more of a punishment or deterrent, and this is an incentive.
Well,
And you would make the case, that,
yeah.
well, cause the ETJ, they're potentially pulling out of the coffers of the town. In this
Right.
case, they're adding to the coffers of the town, maybe, you know, with taxes or something.
well,
yeah,
especially
absolutely.
with future zoning, I mean.
It is a benefit to the town.
For controlling growth, it potentially could be, yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be worth, what, $100, $200 to have the town protect, you know, a big field of land that's not gonna get divided up into tiny houses, you know. I just think that's an equal trade.
But do we,
I would agree
do we,
with that,
do we,
actually.
do we, I mean.
I mean, that's not really, point of order, it's really not on the agenda, that,
It's
like,
just the window.
the window's on the agenda. We can't
I
really
guess-
talk
yeah.
about that.
I guess I would say the
so-
3-month window's fine. with
Okay.
me. It was
I'll-
fine last year.
So let's do a motion and let's move on, because.
Okay, make a motion, we have a 3-month window, February through April.
Number 8, now, again, it's the voluntary annex window that is on the agenda.
It's not to allow, it's to encourage, right?
To
It's a 90-day encouragement.
encourage.
'Cause they can do it anytime.
They can, but we
It
want to
helps the
encourage
city,
it.
it helps the town.
Okay, so Kinsey Salisbury.
Hey guys, it's been a while. Alright, so I wrote it down so that way I could be precise and quick for y'all. In the time frame that the current window for annexation has been open, I believe only one family has successfully self-annexed their land, and it wasn't any of the people who have been so outspoken about people who want to remove their ETJ. Annexation is about power and protection and who you want to have it over your property. Since I know you'll likely won't answer any of my questions, I suggest you close the window for self-annexation, because unless any of you are personally going to self-annex any of your land. Because Tara has mentioned her and her husband would discuss it, and they haven't chosen to, and nobody will be given the availability to hear their reasoning on why they haven't. They hold so much value on being a part of the town. So if you don't self-annex, we are left to assume you don't want the town to have power over your land, which is understandable reason, and you shouldn't be judged on it, just like how people who want to remove their land from the ETJ. And to add on to that, what you were talking about, the costs, it will eventually be profitable to the town if people will annex. It most definitely will, especially if there's ever a property tax. So just keep that in mind.
Can I ask a clarification question?
Sure.
So, Kinsey, I've skipped a part of your argument. So you said you think we should close the window?
I do.
Well, there isn't a window right now. We only
So I
had,
don't think you should renew it, or I don't think there should be another window for self-annexation. They've had whatever that time frame was, and nobody else has come up.
well, that's not accurate, though. I've talked with several people who have said this
They would
year,
like to.
yeah.
Why
that-
didn't they do it whenever the window was open?
Because they didn't know about it last year, and now they know about that they can do it. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios. There was like 3 or 4 last year. One was already in the town, and
Are they here today to talk about,
It
like?
doesn't matter.
I'm not.
None of your business.
So, okay, moving on. Shelley Smith.
And just for the record, I'm not taking issue with what you said, I just want a clarification. I was trying to connect the, second part of your argument with, close the window, so.
Okay.
And I think
All right.
people can do it at any time, no, so, I
Well-
mean, this isn't, we can't really stop them from requesting it. I wouldn't want people to
No.
not have the ability to request it.
So I've had people come into my store and say, "Hey, can I annex in? I want to be able to vote in town." And I said, "Well, if you're contiguous," and they're like, "Okay, let me talk to my neighbors." So they're in the works of it, but it can be a process. So I think that putting the word out there is definitely, because people need to know that they can. All right, Shelley Smith.
Pass.
Patrick Smith. Dale Bryant. Tracy Hicks.
So, my understanding is self-annexation is available to anybody at any time. So why would we waste the manpower and the paperwork to offer that when it's already available? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, Doug Kendrick.
Doug Kendrick, Holly Creek. I don't know really the time to make points now or in the general comments at this time. It's a rough go on ballot, and it comes down, some of my main comments were to be tonight, seems like we need to prioritize our projects, and it seems like the ETJ, annexation, boundaries, and stuff like that, we need a map. And we need a map that's a legal map that we can certainly use, and anybody can use, and during annexations, I can stay on this point of the agenda. When it comes to these types of situations, we could go to a map that's certified, or however you want to say it, and properly done, so that way there's no arguments, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, or leaving it to the owners to try to do the work that we should, as a community, provide to those in the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Well, getting an engineering firm is a good step in that. David Emmer?
One quick question. When people annex into the town, is it by petition or same thing, same as the other way? Okay. Good point. Okay. Same rules should apply in my opinion.
Okay, any other conversation from council?
So just so I'm clear, can they seek annexation at any time, and we're just trying to narrow a window or advertising a window? Is that our point?
I think so. We're just advertising, hey, if you could.
I'm fine with advertising. Is there a point to do it?
Other than to encourage it.
But
People think about it.
But can't we put, is there a reason to vote on a window if we can just advertise it? Hey guys, you can annex.
Correct.
Well, but to that point, I think, I'm sitting here thinking about it, we're probably not legally obligated to let people annex into the town ever, but it is definitely in our interest.
My understanding is we don't have to if it's not in the best interest of the town. So if they are, have a really awful road, because maybe we don't want to, but, if three friends get together and they unite and are contiguous and they want to have a say, and they can absolutely do
So
that.
it really is more of a campaign of the town trying to encourage people to come in so we can increase our land mass and our base and all of that. So we can run a promotion anytime we want. So we're doing one 90 days.
Okay,
It's on the
so,
table, right?
so is there a motion for the 90-day advertising?
I'll make a motion for the 90 days.
Okay.
Second.
Starting February.
Start February, okay, February, March, and April. All right, so we have a motion, was that
Second.
by Anderson?
Anderson.
By Anderson, seconded by Blake, to have a 90-day advertisement window for self-annexation. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, number 9, discuss and take action regarding whether citizen comments should be included in the town minutes in the summary or left out entirely. This was asked by the lady who is volunteering to do the minutes, Sherry Vincent. She's like, I don't know ever what to do. Now, she's done both. She's tried to include some, and then she didn't include some for a while. So she's just like, come on, y'all just give us some direction. So, what's your thought on it?
I like them being in there. I like to be able to go back to the minutes and see what was said about the actions we were going to take. It gives continuity to the minutes.
Yeah, I would agree. I was kind of smiling when I saw this, when I first printed it out, because I thought, wow, what a difference a day makes, because at some point, we were doing like a word-for-word transcription, and they were like 40 pages long. Now we're trying to cut them down to just the agenda with passed or failed, and so somewhere in the middle, but I agree, I like it. We don't need to put all of the aggression or all of the little, but just the gist of what they said.
It's important.
I think it's important.
So we're a government by the people and for the people, so I feel like the people are a big part of our meetings here, and I'm proud of that. I think that's good and healthy for the most part, and so I think it's good to have a summary of that. But let's hear from the people. Shelley Smith.
Okay, excuse me. The whole point of meeting minutes is to let people know people who were not in attendance and aren't going to watch a 3 or 4 hour video know what happened. If you were to leave out any and all citizen remarks, questions, and comments, then the minutes would not accurately reflect what happened. It would only lead someone to believe that the meeting went smoothly and everyone in attendance was in complete agreement with all that was presented to the public.
And your point is?
This would be an egregious error and not represent reality. Thank you.
I'm in complete agreement with that, Shelley. Patrick Smith.
Pass.
Okay. Dale Bryant.
Dale Bryant, actually kind of what Shelley is saying, you know, we only have 3 minutes. And sometimes we use that open mic time to kind of finish up our comments. And I think it would be a mistake if we didn't capture that information. Don't take it away from the citizens.
Okay, Tracy has.
I would just say that maybe leave out the individual names and just let the comments go. I mean, that's just my thought.
I like the
I don't know if anybody likes that or not.
Okay, Doug Kendrick?
Pass, please.
Okay, Chad West?
I'll pass.
David Emmer?
I agree with all the dittos. Deputy the mayor, Shelley, and Doug.
Okay.
Dale.
Okay. All right, so, I guess the citizen comments, and we're just summarizing just like we are. And I think, again, to reiterate, TML, when I attended their year before last, they basically, in the minutes, it's a legal document, so it needs to at least have enough in it to back up the vote. It shouldn't just be passes, you know, this and passes 5-0 or something. It should have at least enough in there that you did discuss it, and that, you know, and for those people who aren't gonna listen to a 4-hour video, they can get the nuts and bolts. We do have people that do read the minutes, and they wanna feel like they at least get the summary, enough, so. All right, so it looks like,
So are we leaving it alone, or do we need a motion?
I think we should put it in a vote so that it is an amended entry,
Okay,
so that it's official,
Motion
because,
that we continue to include citizen comments, in the minutes along with the name. I like to have
In the
name.
present format.
In the current format, basically.
Second.
okay. We have a motion by Jaffe, seconded by Anderson, to continue including citizen comments with the name in the current format. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. All right, number 10, discuss and take action on the town updated prospective zoning map. So, we have,
No, we didn't get one, right?
no, we didn't, and the subcommittee is gonna have to meet and kind of tweak some things. We had some technical issues, so we still have this same map that
We're not expected
Simeon.
to vote on anything tonight.
No,
No.
but we wanna give our citizens another chance to email in, to cm.white@poetrytexas.org or cm.blake@poetrytexas.org. If you see something in this map, and you have a comment, concern, question, now's your time, please speak up. This is the potential zoning map. The green is agriculture, and our goal is to remain a lot of agriculture in town. The purple is the small estates, and the pink is the larger ones, is that right?
The pink is, yes, it's the single family ones. And actually, this map isn't the most correct. The most correct is the digital version that we had last time with the 4 edits on it. We just don't have that here right now. But if y'all saw any on that especially, please let me know. We haven't seen anything, you know, each of these properties was picked through very meticulously and double checked, so there probably isn't anything, but if you see anything, it'd be really good to point it out, because we're almost ready to move forward with planning and zoning in general, and I know it's really requested by people that are worried about development, so.
So Simeon, so that we're all on the same song sheet, the same version of the song sheet, can we put this out on the website?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that we and citizens can pull down and we're all looking at the same thing?
We'll be required to post it in the newspaper, and we will be required to post it. So once we get the technical difficulties worked out, we'll get it online and
Yeah, because
we'll
we're not
post
gonna
it.
post one in the paper until we voted on it, right?
No, you
No.
have to
Before.
post it
Okay.
to let people know, hey, it's official
Fair
now.
enough. We've had a lot of versions, I just we need like a version number or something. Or a
Well,
date
I mean,
or-
this is Simeon's colored one. So
This is
the
version
yellow,
one.
But you
the,
just said
this
it's
is
wrong.
yellow.
You said it's
It's
out
not,
of date.
it's not
There's a
current.
couple ones that
The
are
yellow
Yeah.
one, the yellow is business/nonprofit. So it
I
does
don't
include
see
the
yellow, I see
churches.
orange.
Okay, yellow/orange.
Yeah, I didn't have a yellow marker, so.
Just making sure I haven't gone colorblind, I see orange.
No, this is,
That's
you know,
mustard.
98 to 99% correct. There were just a couple properties in there that had to change colors.
It's
I'm going
mustard.
with orange on that one. Well, it's somewhere in the middle, but I mean, we're not mixing paint, but
All right, so let's see who wants to talk on that.
One other thing, I encourage you, if you know something, if you can let us know by the end of the month. We're tentatively meeting Friday the 2nd to put in the final details so that we can produce the final map. So that would be helpful.
Please.
Proposed
Yeah,
map.
so if you have any concerns, please email these two gentlemen, and we appreciate it. We want our citizen input. All right, number 10 is Shelley Smith. Patrick Smith. Dale Bryant.
Dale Bryant, on the zoning map, one, this is not truly a zoning map because you kind of mix ETJ with the actual zoning. Our zoning is that, basically the ribbon map, if you want to, for lack of a better term. That's really our zoning map. This is more comprehensive map. That being one, so I think we need to show a zoning map that is a true reflection of the town. That's one. Two, and I've talked to Councilman White about this, there are about 5 subdivisions in Poetry, okay? And these subdivisions, they have deed restrictions. And part of these deed restrictions, Grandy Birdie, disclosure, Grandy Birdie is one of them, and probably the biggest. Those subdivisions, of course, we need to, the caveat is, we need to look at all of the zoning, all of the deed restrictions and make sure these subdivisions qualify. But if you throw zoning on top of deed restrictions, you're gonna cloud a lot of title.
So our attorney addressed that when he was here, and he said that they do not mix at all. There is no problem with that. He was here and he addressed that. Yeah. Our attorney, David Berman.
And I tend
So-
to disagree with that.
So, okay,
What-
so
what-
he
what do
is
we
our
think- What do we
legal.
think he said? Because I remember him saying that those stay intact.
Yeah, he said.
That the, that's right, that's what I
That's right,
heard, that
that's
the
what I heard
zoning
too.
doesn't add to,
That's
it
right.
sits to the side, and those,
Yeah, because he was surprised that we even had them. That was the problem.
No,
So-
he said it didn't cloud title.
You're saying it
and,
says it
uh,
clouds
they'll
it.
both, they're gonna both, it's like state law and local law, they'll both apply. If we put in something more restrictive for zoning, it's not gonna clash with state law, it's gonna
And I
complement.
disagree with you because these deed restrictions are part of the deed. You have a warranty deed when you buy these properties. These restrictions are part of the deed, and I've provided that to Councilman White. So if you try to throw zoning on top of these deed restrictions, you're going to cloud title. Why? Because 90% of these properties that are in these subdivisions, they have a loan. And that lender loaned money based on that deed. And now you're gonna go and change the deeds. You know, so which one of you wants to go talk to all of our lenders? When there becomes a problem. So all
So
I'm saying,
cities do that all the time.
your
so,
attorney,
yeah.
all I'm saying is your
Yeah.
attorney pretty much agreed. I think you misinterpreted what he said, and I heard it the same way
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Jaffe heard it. You can't throw zoning on top of deed restrictions.
I don't believe that's what he was saying.
You're trying to alter,
I don't believe that's what he was
you're trying
saying.
to alter title.
So he
You
was
might get a
saying
second
there,
opinion.
okay.
We've got that in writing too, he addressed this very specifically, and he liked the way we were doing it now, he was okay with it. I mean, I do respect that opinion, and it has some good thought behind it too, but, we hire a lawyer for a reason.
But one of the reasons is you
But
really
his real estate
eliminate,
high.
you really eliminate the issue.
so, but his time is up, and I'll direct it to you, Simeon, because you're the resident expert. So, is it possible, is it because those properties are not currently under zoning and zoning is coming in after the fact that you sort of collide the deed restrictions? I mean, if something is under the rules of zoning, can you deed restrict it? You probably can't deed restrict it inconsistent with zoning, right? Or, I don't know, I wonder how that works after the fact, after zoning is in place.
So the way it would work is, if there was anything that overlaps, it'll go with the most restrictive. In truth, neither one of them are going away. If the deed restrictions say you can't break the property below, 1.5 acres, and the zoning says 2 acres, well, the deed restriction would be, you'd go with the most restrictive one, which would be the town, because both apply at the same time. You're not taking away the deed restrictions. You're just adding another law to the book. The deed restrictions are law, this is law. One law doesn't make the other one null and void, they just both apply.
But the zoning should never cause an owner to violate the deed restriction, because that would be bad.
Right, it can't, it won't. The zoning doesn't require anything. It restricts what you can do.
All right, so, any other discussion by council? That's all of our citizen comments. I believe David Emmer, did you say pass? Okay.
So we're gonna pick this up again on the next agenda, or?
And that'll probably be the official one once we can get the map, uploaded and all of that, so we can finalize this. Yep. All right, so number 11, no, it wasn't. Oh, I thought you passed. Did you not pass? Oh, I apologize. I crossed it out.
All right, so, Mr. White, I'm gonna ask you a question. So, if you laid the zoning on top of your deed restricted property, okay?
Right.
And you put it up for sale, would the lender give you insurance on that property that was restricted by zoning that clouded your title?
So it doesn't cloud title?
Yes, it does.
That's not what our lawyer said.
Okay, you need to go find a real estate lawyer. He is a town attorney, not a real estate lawyer.
Call Micah.
Well,
So I know a real estate, attorney.
Me too.
I think we could check that out.
I don't think Mr. Berman would say something that he wasn't sure about.
I
He's gone
mean,
back
he's
and
been-
checked
yeah.
on multiple.
I don't mind getting a second opinion.
He's said on more than one occasion that he isn't aware.
All right, order, that, hey, that is disrespectful, okay? That is disrespectful.
He said on more than one occasion that he'll go and check up on things and that he doesn't know. I mean, I trust him. That's the reason I was okay with hiring him. We shouldn't pay him if we're not gonna listen to him. That's what I'm really saying.
Okay, so I think we have listened to all our citizens, and any other council on this, or we can move on. Okay. All right, number 11, discuss roles and responsibility of Poetry Town government. This was presented or requested by Councilmember Jaffe. So what did you have in mind?
Okay, good, and thank you for putting it on, and just as a point of order, only these two have my name by them, so do we just sort of, because we agreed we're gonna put names, does that mean anything else defaults to the mayor? And that's not a contentious question, that's just a,
That's my understanding, so.
okay.
Well, I didn't put the citizen Sherry Vinson when she asked for the one because she's a citizen.
Yeah, she's not a council member. That's
So,
fine, 'cause
if it
we
is a
agreed we were
council
gonna get the
member, then
council
I'm
to-
trying to put that at the end
Who
of.
sponsored it or
Yes.
who- okay,
Yes.
well, good. Well, thank you for putting it on. So I'm gonna try to sort of follow my own medicine here and not say what I wanna say in a way that's gonna indict any particular person. These are gonna be more general statements. But in the last meeting, I have to tell you, I left here not angry, not upset, not discouraged, but just a little bit sad. And I was a little bit sad because I think the end of the meeting just didn't go very well in my mind. And so, you know, Tara, you reminded us of our decorum policy and some of the statement that you made, which is fine. And I went back and I read the policy and I was wondering, how does this apply to our mission as a council and how we want to conduct ourselves? And I think generally over the last 3 years or so, I think we've grown up and matured a lot, and I think we're doing much better in terms of our conduct. But, you know, we did pass the decorum policy, and it talks about, you know, ensuring sort of that we treat one another in a respectful way. And then under the role of council, I'm just going to read just a couple of brief pieces of it. Under role of council and decorum policy, it says each member of the town council is bound to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the state of Texas, and to carry out applicable laws and provisions of the town. And, you know, I find us debating things, and I won't go back to the topic directly, but just that I think we all would agree are state law, and I don't think it's the place of the council to argue whether a state law is legit or not legit, or should have happened or shouldn't have happened, right? That's not something I think we should be discussing and trying to settle here. that's done in Austin, or that's done up in Washington, or whatever. So I believe our responsibility is to simply take those laws at the state and federal level and make sure that they're being properly managed within our town and that we're honoring those. Now, we have the right to pass ordinances and things within our jurisdiction, but we can't choose to ignore speed limits or, you know, gun laws or anything else because we're Poetry, Texas. I think and we do say that in here. And then it goes on to say the mayor, presiding officer, shall preserve order and decorum, discourage attacks on personalities and others. And I think, you know, I think we need to be real careful about, you know, my biggest struggle with getting on the council, and I'm, like I think most of the people sitting here, I'm not a politician, right? I got on the council because I care about the town, and I want to make sure that, you know, somebody is standing guard, right, to make sure that its citizens are being protected. But selfishly, I want to be in that protected group. But I understand that there are going to be times, and there have been times, when I absolutely disagree with something that we're working on, but I have to put that aside and come here realizing I represent all the people that voted for me, even those that didn't, in the way I kind of conduct myself, right? I can't just cut loose and become, you know, Redneck Mike in a council meeting, right? I've got to sort of manage myself. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of make the point in that agenda item, and I don't think there's any action to be taken, that I think we spent a lot of time putting together decorum policy, and as I read through it in this instance, I was pretty proud of what we had written, because I thought, you know, if we did everything in here, I would be proud of every meeting, right, and everybody's conduct and all of that. Now, I realize we're human, I realize we get triggered, and I realize things happen, but I don't think we should ever walk out of here having lost our mind on something, feeling good about it. I think we should feel, I know I feel convicted when I do those kinds of things too. Okay, I shouldn't have done that, I'm gonna do better kind of a thing. Because I feel like we got very, very close in the meeting in what happened at the end there of, you know, attacking people and other things. And I know the words that were used were chosen very carefully, and I can see that when I go back and re-listen to it, but nevertheless, the spirit of what was happening, I think, was probably a little inconsistent with this, and I think would have maybe been better handled outside of the big room, you know, in the executive chamber or something like that. But anyway, that's all I've got to say on it. And any comments?
Okay.
I contacted the attorney about some of the things that went on in the past meeting. And his conclusion is he, like you say, encourages healthy debate, respectful debate. And that's where I agree with you. That's where we should stay with things, about things. But he also said that we're all can make a statement about something. And it may be an opinion you don't agree with, but no one would want to, I wouldn't even use a point of order to stop you from saying something on your mind, even if I felt it wasn't quite right, because I want to know how you feel. I think it's important, but you're right, there's a really thin line.
I think we have to be careful too, though. It's like, you know, I was a police officer, I've been a lot of different things. You know, when you suit up in certain roles in our society, there's a different importance placed on the things you say, right? So if Tara says something, it carries one weight. If I say something, another. If a citizen, another. So I think we need to understand that burden. We say in our decorum that whether I'm at home or here at a meeting, I have an obligation to, right? So unless it's just, you know, me and a citizen off drinking a beer private, or maybe I can vent a little bit, I need to be very careful about, and you know, Tara, you called this out, we've all called it out, we need to be careful, right? Because we don't want to poison our community, and we don't want to poison, and worse than that, we don't want to undermine the integrity of this body, not in the body that we're a part of or future council bodies, right? We want this, I think part of our struggle, some of us have acknowledged, is just a lack of confidence of the citizens and a lack of respect by some of the citizens in what we do and how we do. And I'm not saying I'm any better at this than you guys. I'm just challenging us as a council to work hard at this and stay committed, because I think it's important. And we can have our differences privately in an executive session or, you know, whatever, but I think we need to be very careful about, you know, doing things like that in public, because I don't know, I think we lose people when we start doing that. Viewers start dropping out, and so to speak.
So, okay, so we have Shelley Smith.
I got comments too.
Okay.
So what's the council's thoughts on, we've always kind of heard, or I know we've heard in our lifetimes before, you praise in public, you punish in private, right?
Yeah.
And so what Tara did on her own accord, I'm guessing nobody in this council had prior knowledge of that. In my mind, she has the right, if she thinks that there's a decorum violation. But in my mind, and I hope this council would agree, that the professional way to handle that is in an executive session behind closed doors. That's where we talk about the actions of this council. There were, well, moving forward, I guess we kind of need to decide that. Like, where are we going to handle misconduct claims and all that? It's not sitting out here at this table in front of everybody.
Well, we shouldn't discuss them for the first time at this table.
For
I mean,
sure.
I think we should come back with
So-
sort of a paraphrase.
So where is the accountability? So I feel like if it was a public petition, and it has to be handled according to our attorney by the council.
That was already handled.
Okay.
This is a subject
Okay,
matter
so-
of public admonishment, because if we want to go there, it clearly states in here that you are to preserve the order of the decorum, discourage attacks on personalities, and more importantly, or the impugning of a council member's motive. So that night you failed, Tara.
No, I don't believe we did. I feel
My motives were
completely-
impugned that
okay.
night.
Well, let's
You-
not multiply attack with attack.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
let's
where
not.
do we do this
Okay,
at, right?
so you know what?
Right, and we probably should talk about that before we add more attacks to it.
Absolutely.
Right, so I
What is our rules, guys?
I humbly stated my concern
Public
about
admonishment.
your action. I feel like as a council
So
member,
do we
you
need to
put
modify
yourself
the
above
rules of decorum?
other things.
No, we need
So-
a code of conduct. We brought this up before, and
Okay.
it got shut down also. We need a code of conduct that kind of lays out how we
We have a
proceed
code
with
of
like
conduct
that.
and you broke it, you just don't want to admit it.
So I would say, ignoring what happened,
Tara, just stop.
perhaps we can ignore this circumstance and address the future, and I think that's what you're trying to get to, is what do we do going
What do we
forward?
do going
And I will
Solutions.
say that, at least in my rather limited business experience, but going off of people who've been in industries a lot longer, among management, it's generally, if there's anything to bring against a manager, it is behind closed doors, and it's with other managers, because the public representation of disunity among whoever's making the decisions is
Present a
very
united
bad.
front publicly.
And whoever's doing management and corporation or government or otherwise, they're already under enough attack. We all are by various people at various times, and we sure don't need to be divided among each other.
Well,
So,
no, I think that's the point.
I think
So-
behind closed doors is probably
So
best.
it has happened where I was brought 2.5 years ago, excoriated in public by a certain council member and his wife in public, and that wasn't just, that was like one of our very first meetings. So I'm just, and it had nothing to do with that, but this action I could not in good conscience let go in public. It would mean that I would be condoning it and be complicit in it. So, but we can move on. Just because it's legal does not mean that it is not against ethics. It can be unethical even though it's legal.
Do we
And
want to
so-
sit here and discuss, or we want to have executive session next meeting about this? Because the accusation's out there, right? That I
Well-
did something illegal.
No, not
Unethical
illegal.
in your terms.
Okay,
Where
it's
does this council
against
want to have this
our
conversation, guys?
rules of conduct.
Where
It is
does-
very clear.
Well,
It's
I would be
against.
in favor of executive session, and I will say,
Let's do that.
that we are required whenever reviewing employees, that we meet in executive session.
In private.
So, if we're gonna extrapolate that law to more general, including us, then, I mean, even kind of state law addresses this a little bit. I think that's better. It's what people do in business. I think it's gonna keep the unity here.
Best practices.
And we have, example with our employees, so.
Well, and I like what you say, and I appreciate you saying it, Simeon. Let's not attack, address attack with attack, right? Because that's what I was trying to do by leaving names out. Terry went a different direction, but, I think it's important
I'm curious where we do this at, Mike.
No, I agree. I'm not saying it's for a bad reason, but I think it's important that when we represent the council, that Tara has a lot of duties she can do on her own, but if something comes out that sounds like it's like the opinion of the council, I think the council needs to have said, yes, we agree, that is our opinion, not, and that goes for all of us, not just Tara, that's me. If I go out there and start saying something as though I represent the whole council and I haven't even told you guys
So,
that's
so my
inappropriate.
thought on this was I did not want to make it an agenda item because it would bring more emphasis to it, not less. So I wanted to just make a prior, like a kind of a quiet statement. And, it did catch a lot of attention, but I don't think that we could just sweep it under the rug because as officials, I'm held to a higher standard. I think we all should be. I had my personal credit card, audited by a citizen. And they found out that the town owed me $198, but I am held to a higher standard, and so we all are, and just because I called someone out on that doesn't mean that I hate them, doesn't mean it's personal. I would have done the same thing for any one of these, council members. I'm held all day long. I am held to a higher standard, and I am called out for 3 years I've been called out, and it's not been very nice. And so I tried to, as humbly as best I could, to respect him and just say, look, I don't think that this is correct, and hold that accountable to the conduct that's written in our own code of conduct.
I'm asking, is that what we wanna do moving forward? Is that what council wants to do moving forward?
No, I agree with you.
Right.
Let's do it in executive session.
Yeah, I guess I'd come down on the side of saying, look, and I'm not saying I disagree with Tara, or agree, I'm just saying, and I think Simeon's point's right, I've been in a lot of board meetings, and typically, when you have something serious, you close the doors and you run out all the people that don't need to be there, only the people that absolutely need to be there, if there's a serious issue. So I guess I would say in the future, I would say when we have things, Terry, whether it's you or me or anybody else.
Anybody, any
let's
employee,
request-
anybody just,
Let's request some executive session where we get rid of anybody that isn't absolutely necessary and just us listen.
Well, I would add to what you said, Tom, that when you come out of that room after having made the sausage, you come out with a unified front, right? It's like,
Yeah.
even some of us may not agree with what we said, but we keep our mouth shut.
Well, that's ideal, Mike.
No, but you don't walk out, you don't come back out here and then
We've
hash
done
it
that
out
with the
again.
attorneys, when the attorneys gave his opinion, we got a unified front.
That's true. No, I just say, I think Simeon's point is well taken.
And that's all I'm asking for, is that
Yeah,
we handle.
just get it down to the bare bones people that
in the private.
are
Yeah, so
dealing
my,
with it.
my point was not this specific thing as much as, like he said, just reminding us of, we need to stay on top of our conduct and all that. So I would encourage Simeon, because you spoke up earlier, if we would maybe put this particular item on a future for an executive, I think that would be a good thing.
Well, I think-
Somebody else putting it on rather than Terry, so that it's,
But I think Simeon's point is well taken, and I'm impressed that he brought it out.
Thank you.
didn't know you had it in you. I did.
All right, so are we gonna move on to,
Well,
we got
citizens.
citizens.
Comments.
Number 10, well, number 11, Shelley Smith.
Okay, in all the research that I've done, and it's been considerable, I have yet to come across one single word that indicates that a government official must reject their civil rights as a United States citizen in order to hold office. So the very idea that Councilman Fowler did something unethical by protecting his assets as allowed by law is ridiculous and unethical on your part. I believe that you owe him a huge apology, and I believe your husband does too. And by doing what you did last month, you've single-handedly changed the decorum policy. You realize that, don't you? You did not call your husband out on talking to Councilman Fowler.
Don't answer. Yeah,
And so that proves to us that it's okay to say what we think, because you're not going to stop us. You're not going to have us escorted out, because you have set the example that it's okay. I really do honestly believe you owe Councilman Fowler a huge apology. I can't say that word tonight. So, it was embarrassing to watch. And it was embarrassing to watch. And I think that you can do better.
The response was embarrassing to watch the profanity and all of that.
No, no, no.
Before we get into all that, is that
Yeah.
really on, is this on topic?
Yeah,
Because
I'm not
this
sure it is.
See, I had thought that I would say this during general comments,
Yeah.
but since Councilman Jaffe
We're talking about
mentioned this
poetry
part.
town government. You're way off topic, I think.
No, I think we're talking about calling out
All right.
people individually
All right.
and accusing them of crimes. And
That was not what was done.
yeah, I think it was.
No.
Could we get this during general?
All right, you're
Because
done.
It might be more appropriate.
I'd be happy to come
You're
back
off
during
topic,
general.
And that's not, you're conflating issues. Patrick Smith?
I'll try to be very brief. I mean, everybody's already said what the issues are, and I believe y'all have had a good dose of what people have on their minds. The only thing I would add is, I don't, from my perception being in the room, we witnessed coordinated personal attacks on Councilmember Fowler at a time when the people making those personal attacks knew he had basically been gagged by town council, that he's not to say anything during that part of the meeting. That is fundamentally unfair. None of the people sitting at this conference table deserve a setup like that. And we do have a pattern, unfortunately, and I'm saying this just to let everybody think about it. The way the decorum rules are enforced against some people are very different than how they're enforced against other people. And at the meeting, when it became apparent that the presiding officer was not going to take control of the situation, one of the council members who had the ability to speak should have raised a point of order. I just ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Tracy Gibbs?
So if you would turn to the first page of the agenda, I would appreciate it. Section E, halfway down the paragraph, it says, "Comments should be respectful with no personal attacks. To preserve the order and decorum of the meeting of the town council, any person who makes profane, slanderous, or threatening remarks or who becomes disruptive during the meeting will be asked to leave the council chambers, and subject to Penal Code 38.14205. So, we're talking about rules and responsibility of the council. Tara just stated it perfectly. She should hold herself to a higher standard, correct? So, who's going to hold her to that higher standard?
Doug? Kendra?
Doug Kendrick, Holly Creek. Mayor Pro Tem Jeff, respect you for bringing up the content of your discussion. There's things that I would probably like to say during the general comments as well. Being council people is a tough job. If everybody wanted to be one, there'd be more than 7 chairs at a table. But it's unfortunate that 7 people have to be respectful to one another, and as well as to the community. I agree that y'all are on the right track of taking care of your business behind closed doors. And just to comment as well, it was kind of an unfair advantage if people are being accused, but yet they had to recuse themselves on the topic that was being discussed. But I think, Mayor, if you follow through and do your executive sessions behind closed door, that'll eliminate a lot of these things, especially in a public manner. As I said, I'm going to speak some more in the general comments, but I do respect you guys, which you should respect each other because of the job. There's 7 of y'all, and that's the job that y'all have to do, is depend on each other to do the job and do what's right for the community and get their support as well. So I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Chad West?
it's important for this council to understand the difference between facts and opinions. I've been gabbled more times than I care to remember when I want to bring up facts, but if those facts are disparaging, the person holding the hammer immediately says it's a personal attack. But the fact is that for 6 minutes, the mayor and her husband personally attacked a councilman citizen with their opinions. And I don't believe that's wrong, and every one of you should be ashamed for not stopping it.
Hey, David Emmer?
David Emmerd. We were on the way home from Florida watching this on YouTube, and we had 2 teenagers that are taking civics in class. And they were very eye-open to the situation at hand. Highly recommend in this case, definitely going into executive session and being fair when to be sure to stay on topic, because the issue at hand at that time was on an ETJ removal petition, which was not evident for the 2 issues that I'll talk about in general session. Anyway, I highly recommend Councilman Pro Tem Mike Jaffe's opinion. And thank you for all you are doing. It's a tough job, just like they said.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's all the citizen comments. I think we've gone down this.
So I don't know if we want to, do we need to, because I did put a take action as necessary to, well, I don't know.
I don't know that they're.
Related. I think we
The
just
action is to go into executive session.
commit to putting something on the agenda next time, so we can have a little internal powwow.
Sounds good. All right.
That does cost money, so to have an executive session costs us money, so just,
Because
because we have to have the attorney present.
we'd be on the phone, though. I mean, we don't have, he doesn't have to
He will
drive
not,
here.
he will not do, he said he might do an executive session on the phone, but, if he's gonna be out and open, then he will not do it on the phone.
Okay, well, you've done a lot of them on the
But
past
I
on the
think
phone.
because next month we have to do the, zoning, we might have that in there anyway. But I'm trying to get that budget in line for the attorney fees, so, cause we had gone over budget, now I think we're in line with our
I mean,
budget,
I'm not for
so.
spending money, but if we need an executive session, we need an executive session, so.
Where are we gonna hold executive sessions?
Normally.
In our cars.
Normally you ask, at least in the county, we're asked to leave.
So in February.
I guess it'll be
Bring
risk,
your jacket.
well, so if we have an executive session, the citizens will be asked to go back to their cars.
Well, is the council wanting to have an executive session on this topic in particular, or just going forward, these kind of topics we want to be an executive session?
I'd like a chance to defend myself in front of y'all. I don't care what the citizens think.
Okay.
Okay. How do you schedule an executive session in an agenda? Do you do that first?
Well, we
Has to
could
be
put
on
it,
the department.
well, I mean, I can put it in the beginning, we could have it earlier.
We could.
Well,
You have to call a meeting to order, but you don't have to have people here to call it to order.
would that be more convenient for everybody else if we get that taken care of beforehand?
Right, well, the meetings, yeah, they can come in at 7 or something, we'll be here at 6.
We can come in at 6.
6,
Now,
yeah.
because if we're gonna do the zoning, we have to post it accurately in the newspaper, so it might be that we have, that public forum not until like 7:30, and then an executive session the first hour or something.
Since we're advertising this too, we may want to go to Poetry Baptist Temple for this whole meeting for the P and Z, because probably have a lot more people here, and that'd be a good place to do the executive session.
So we have to open as a public meeting, and then so it would be public it'd be on video, and then we withdraw from executive
Immediately
session.
go into executive.
Immediately go into executive
But to
session.
his point, if it's gonna be a bigger meeting because of P and Z, maybe have it at Faith Temple.
Well, I
That
mean,
would be
even the
easier. Or the
last,
school.
even the last one,
Was it not that complicated?
No.
it was not that well attended.
Or $50.
It's true, but I mean, we are putting this in the newspaper. I mean, I don't know. If we were gonna ever have a big meeting, it'd probably be
I'd rather decide on the,
Yeah.
make sure we have
Well, that
plenty
would
of room.
make it easier for an executive session, but just, we need some volunteers to help move the stuff, because that's a thing.
I'll volunteer.
Citizen volunteer.
All right, so. All right, and we'll have to see if, the facility is available. All right, number 11.
12.
I'm sorry, 12, discuss expectations and responsibilities of Poetry Town government employees and volunteers.
So again, and in the spirit of what Simeon said, I'm not gonna put any names in here, but, you know, I think we've talked a few times over the years about our volunteers. They're critically important, but they are representatives of the town council, right? And I know, speaking for myself, when I'm a part of a ministry or some organization as a volunteer, typically I'll have to take training or sign a document that says I understand the importance of representing them, and, you know, that maybe there's a background check. I mean, there's any number of things that you have to agree to, even though you're volunteering, because I just want to make sure you're not out there, you know, tooting your own flag or misrepresenting them or something like that. So, as Terry mentioned earlier, we've talked a couple of times in the past about code of conduct, or I thought about even extending the decorum to cover that. But I think it's important for us, but also for the volunteers, that we've sort of established the ground rules up front, because you can't really accuse somebody of breaking a rule that you never told them existed, right? So I think
And
we...
what are you talking about something specifically?
Well, if we want to go specific, it was Bob, and I appreciate his honesty, said after the meeting, you know, when it all got kind of crazy, he turned the volume down for just a second. It wasn't a long time.
6.
Okay, so 6 seconds. And it's not that there was no volume for 6 seconds. It really didn't change anything. I mean, you could clearly tell there was a lot of chaos. But it just reminded me that, have we told Bob, and I'm not picking on you, Bob, I'm picking on us, have we told Bob, or have we told Josh or others what we expect of them as a council? Now, maybe you did, but as a council, if we said, hey, we appreciate the sound guy doing sound and video, but we have a responsibility to capture an accurate recording of our meeting, right? We can't, accidents aside, we can't, and Bob, you did not do this, I'm making this up. We can't say, well, I just turned it off because I didn't want that person's stuff recorded and then I turned it back on or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We need to say, listen, the role you're in is to capture a
Everything.
legal record. Please make sure that you make every effort to keep everything running, right? Or if somebody's running our mail server, or they're running our website, you know, that they understand what our expectations are. It's good that they sort of have their own little moral compass that keeps them going, but what if they didn't?
Yeah.
I mean, what if suddenly, and I'm not picking on your website person, because she's doing a great job, but what if she wasn't the good person that she is? What if she just went haywire one time and thought, you know, this is a really good place to advertise my puppies for sale or something, and we're like, no, it's a town website, you can't do that, okay? Well, you never told me that. Well, that's a fair response, right? So I just think I would...
Okay, before we get off into the weeds, can I go ahead and just
Yep.
address this issue, please? All right, so, Bob has been a sound technician for many years. He's very experienced. We were very fortunate to have him. So I'm very grateful that he knows the technological know-how. Josh did not necessarily have all that, so it was very nice that he stepped forward to do that. So I'm very appreciative. He's done an outstanding job for, over a year and a half?
Yeah, probably about that.
A year and a half. So, and I'm glad we're talking about this though, but yeah, I would like him an opportunity to speak to it, but I did want to say something first. Was in the TML conference in October, I attended a session called The Good, Bad, and the Real Ugly. It was a session courtesy of the Texas Municipal Clerks Association. Laura Simmons of the Texas Rangers Division spoke. And I have notes, and I actually spoke with her privately, and she says, you know, and some of the things are exactly what we're doing. We're, you know, letting citizens speak. You know, we actually let citizens speak a lot more than most towns. So we let them speak on every agenda item, and that was something they were encouraging. they, be consistent. They said one technique is to shut off the mic if there's profane language.
The mic.
The mic. You shut off the mic if there's profane language because it can help de-escalate it.
That's the mic.
So you shut off the mic. So now I did, in all fairness to Bob, I did mention that to him after I got back in October. And I haven't spoke to him about it since, but that is apparently a strategy that they say to de-escalate if there's, profanity. And Bob, I think you were saying that, FCC rules and that kind of thing. Please comment.
I mean, the radio and television for years have always had a delay factor going where someone's sitting with the button and they could shut the whole thing off. Now we're into streaming stuff, and what happens there is the person who's I'm not really sure where this thing ends up at, but they can, if they hear those words and stuff like that, they can pull the plug and you can never get it back on.
So that's the YouTube, because we put it on YouTube.
I mean, you don't own YouTube.
Yeah, we don't own it.
If they get enough complaints that say, hey, look, these people, the vulgar language is coming out of their meetings, we don't want that on this thing. They'll pull the plug and you'll never get it back on there again. But the other part is, I've spent almost my entire life, about 45 years, in broadcasting. So this is not the first time I've seen this happen. And many times, the big show, I don't know how many folks watch the Oscars, it starts before 5 o'clock. So there's this big delay in there, and they got two guys sitting in a big control room with their hands on the buttons to pull the video or the audio, just like that, and nobody, so.
Okay.
I put it down, I put it right back up, and all hell broke
So I
loose.
didn't know until the next day that actually occurred. We didn't have any communication about that. I did hear Councilmember White had texted me saying, did you know about this? And I just found out. And so, I think it's good that we talk about it. How does the council feel? Do we want to let the chips fall where they may and have? It is not a legal record. The minutes are a legal record. The video is merely a courtesy. It is not allowed, and I was told this by a female attorney, it's not allowed admissible in court. The minutes are. So.
Video and audio is not admissible.
Well, that's what one TML attorney told me. And it may depend on
I
the
spoke to
judge.
our attorney on it.
Okay.
Well, as a point of order, what I wanted us to stay focused on in the agenda title is expectations and responsibilities. My point is, I would not hire any person that was going to represent me without having a conversation about what my expectations were. I just wouldn't. You wouldn't hire somebody to sell your soap and never give them any ground rules or boundaries or anything else, and no telling what they'd be selling, right? And so you could destroy your company. So I agree with the technical parts, and I very much appreciate Bob what he's doing. This is not directed at Bob. This just sort of reminded me of, we talked about doing something in the past where we just said, hey, you're going to volunteer to do this. We need you to understand that here are sort of some boundaries, right? And here's some expectations. I have expectations about Josh, I'm making this up, running the email server. You probably have expectations. You have expectations. But have we ever told Josh, as a uniform council, what our expectations are of how the email server is run? We've never had a conversation. We just sort of hope that, and I think in this case, he's a good guy and he's a credible guy. But I don't think we should assume that everybody understands.
Going forward, he may not be the guy.
No, so my point of this agenda item specifically was not whether Bob keeps us out of prison for putting, F-bombs out on the internet. It was, how do we manage going forward our volunteers and making it clear to them, you represent this council, okay? Even if you're out picking up trash, we want to, especially the critical functions, email, website, and others, we need to know that you agree to these things. Otherwise, I think we're going to get in trouble. Not that we have a lot of volunteers to sort through, but I think
maybe like
it's important.
kind of a code of conduct for our volunteers.
Sure. Well, at least
So
in the
do you want to
administrative
maybe,
functions.
do you want to spearhead like just a simple
We've
something?
already done it, we have a draft.
Yeah.
Me and Brian Vincent
Okay,
drafted that.
well, I think the draft that we saw was pretty,
Let's revisit it.
yeah, we might want to revisit that
And I'll take
because
whatever we've got.
we don't want to make it
and
so
work that.
onerous that it's gonna scare half our volunteers away.
It's not.
So,
Do we do
yeah.
public comments? I've lost track.
All right.
Well, I think we could do this because there are specific jobs and we can have specific expectations for those
That's
jobs.
right. It's 3 or 4 key ones. I mean, I'm not as worried about people picking up trash and helping out in the field, but, you know, for our sound and video guys, for our minutes person, for, you know, the.
So we had 650 volunteer hours in the 2023. That's excluding the minutes, someone who did the minutes, because she didn't record those. So it's probably at least another 100 and 120 hours. So it was significant. 650 volunteer hours. About 30% of that's outside. The rest was inside.
Yeah.
Type of, and that's important because our not only our insurance wants that information, but
Yeah.
our annual audit.
But, yeah, I agree. How can you expect anything if you don't tell them what the expectations are?
In this specific, I can't pick on Bob because he never explained to me, at least, and not that I don't know, I know that there are rules about that because I was in communications in a different way, but, you know, we need to have that conversation, right? So
Yeah.
he knows what I expect, I know what he expects as a council, not just me
Yeah.
personally.
And we have more liberties on YouTube. I researched their rules. They allow some profanity, and I would rather have a complete recording of what's going
Well,
on.
and if that's not meant to be in this specific example, if that's not meant to be the legal record, then let's put a little recorder on the desk, like, you know, some other meetings do. It just, all we
So-
have to have is the audio for the
So
record.
do we, I think someone was mentioning about a camera on the, I guess that's not really on this.
Well, it's, that was one of those things. It's like the camera view. We can't really record the video of the speaker. We get to see the side. I'd like to have the complete view of that. If you watch Greenville's council, they just have a better picture of what's going on. If we're going to record everything, I think we should record all of it and not censor or.
Well, and I believe, and I think it's probably the legal definition, I think the meeting is gavel to gavel, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't end when somebody offends us, it's gavel to gavel.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a recording somewhere. But again, that's not the point of my message. It's just, I think it's okay to have these conversations. I think it's okay to establish some ground rules. When I go do something on behalf of my church, they want to know what I'm doing and where I'm doing it and all that, because they don't want me out there destroying their reputation or,
Yeah.
causing conflict.
Yeah, let's give the volunteers the tools to do their job and the guidelines, so, yeah.
Okay, Shelley Smith? I'll pass. Patrick Smith?
Pass.
Tracy Hicks?
So, at least 4 of you have worked for corporations before, correct? So, you all know what an employee policy is, right? Okay, so with becoming a township, we expect growth in this town. Though we don't want it, we know it's coming. You might as well get on the stick now and start doing your employee policies, which will float over into your volunteers. So they all have to sign it. Easy peasy.
Okay, Doug, Kendrick?
Doug Kendrick, Poultry. I agree, I've been in organizations with volunteers, and you definitely have to give them direction. You have to give them direction because they are representation of the city, of the community. And you got to make sure they do right. I mean, even if it is somebody standing on the side of the road and they start throwing things at cars, you got to say, hey, you can't do that anymore. So I agree, policy book, as the lady just stated, policy books is good for everybody to have as we grow. I think that's a great idea, a good start, and it's accountability. That's all. Thank you.
Chad West?
I think this goes beyond just the video. It goes to all electronic correspondence. I mean, as we talked about from a corporate perspective, you can't set an expectation if you don't have a standard operating procedure that establishes what that expectation is supposed to be. Not to mention the fact that you have to have the policy and procedures in place to make sure that you're keeping the electronic data safe. Perfect example is Brian Vincent been turned off from the town? He's no longer a council member. After his date ends, is he still allowed to check email? Does he still have access to the forum? He may not want it, But as a town, we need to be able to turn off
That was
that
shut
access.
off. That was shut off.
For sure, how do we know that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But this council needs to be able to have a standard operating procedure that goes through from a checks and balances to make sure that those things are happening, to make sure that you're keeping the electronic data of the town safe.
Okay, David Emmert?
David Emmert, like Bob, I've been in media for many, many, many years. I've done sound for media groups over at Lake Point. Yes, we have to sign a mission statement for the church. We have to do background checks because I do sound in the youth group. When we go on missions trips with the medical, I have to do background checks and everything because of the kids over in Mexico, Guatemala, wherever we go. Anyway, I highly recommend you considering what Councilman Fowler and the rest have been suggesting. It will help you out in the future.
Okay, Kevin Sinkovich. All right, so that's it for,
So the action item, we don't need a motion, is I'm going to resurrect sort of employee volunteer policies, and I'll come back with a draft to the council that we can start working through.
Well, as far as the policies for everybody, when I started my company, there was a great little software program that let me do an employee handbook that had a bunch of boilerplate that you could customize to do. It was really pretty simple to set up guidelines, so
Well, I mean, the goodness is, there's a whole field of other cities out there that have done this. We just go grab one of theirs, it's all public domain.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll grab one of theirs like we have a lot of other things, we'll just tighten it up and
Yeah.
make it apply, but I think it's, I don't know, it's just good, it's just sort of a growing pain, growing up kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where we, let's define the roles and responsibilities, set expectations, and then, it
Yeah.
just makes it easier on everybody.
okay. So I think we can move on now to general public comments. Okay, Shelley Smith?
Okay. I've heard it said that the first thing you should do when your horse dies is get off. So I'm going to stop beating the horse from the last item. I have a couple other items, though, that have just been driving me crazy. I'd really like for the council to consider improving on or fixing, and that is that if you would please update the online calendar so that you can list meetings weeks and weeks ahead, and like the February 2nd meeting, can that be on the calendar, that kind of thing, so we
Well,
can.
it's a subcommittee meeting, so it's not really.
It's not open to the public?
No.
No,
It's
no,
a-
no, no. It's a subcommittee.
Yeah.
It's not open.
All right, so just use the calendar. And then the other thing is, would you please put the minutes that have been approved online? We're 5 months behind. And so every time I try to think of, well, what happened on this item, I have to go back through either
Video.
agenda packets or look at the video or whatever, and it's just kind of like making me a little bit insane, which we don't need any more of that, right? So anyway, there you go. Thank you.
So I know that I sent the minutes that were approved, they have to be edited. So I know I sent some update to Lauren, and I think she's put it up, but I'll check on that. All right, so Patrick Smith. Dale Bryant.
Dale Bryant, real quick, go back to zoning a little bit. I would encourage all the council members to go to some other small towns, Talty, Lucas. What you're gonna find with subdivisions, understand, everyone in poetry comes into poetry the way they are, right? Except if you live in a subdivision, we're gonna change the rules. Every town, and what you wanna look under PD or PUD, Planned Development or Planned Unit Development. This is how all the towns do it. Okay, everybody comes in, your farms, your ags, your businesses, churches, cemeteries, subdivisions have to come in, and so it's as simple as come up with one more zoning classification, PD, okay? And what most towns do over time, let's say existing subdivisions come in as PD. If someone then comes into town and wants to do a planned development, okay, anything new would come in as a PUD, and that would distinguish the two types of
What was
use.
the U again?
So it would be real easy. I mean, why upset a big chunk of people? There's 5 subdivisions. Why not just let them come in the way they are? I mean, it's like Grand Verde. We can't subdivide. We can't put a business. I mean, it is what it is.
So what did the PUD stand?
PD is planned
I
development.
got that, the PU.
Planned unit development.
Unit.
And usually what it is, one of them comes, you use one of them as the ones that are grandfathered in, and then use the other one as the ones that would be new coming in. Okay? And so it's real simple, but I encourage you all to go to some other small towns, even the bigger towns, and you'll see that's all what they've done. So we're not asking anything new. This is very, very common.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Tracy Hibbs?
This is very hard for me to say this. But after much thought on how to address the council, I've concluded that the truth is the best option. After reviewing last month's meeting, I was shocked when you allowed the mayor's husband to slander one of your very own. Mr. Fowler was exercising his rights as afforded under the law. The mayor's husband intended to impugn Mr. Fowler at the discretion of the mayor. She violated his civil rights and the council decorum policy of preservation of order. As a proper follow-up, the mayor took it upon herself to continue the slanderous attacks against Mr. Fowler, and you sat there and did nothing. How long will you let the mayor think and act for you and place you in a position of not to speak out? Since when did the mayor's oath and authority become different than yours? I pray you're never on the receiving end of such atrocities for exercising your civil rights. Did becoming a council member mean giving up your rights as a citizen? Serving this community is a privilege bestowed on you by the people of this town. In doing so, you must follow the law. The mayor has broken the thin line that separates you as government leaders and has made a mockery of you, and you have allowed it. When you follow a leader which causes you to breach local and state laws, it puts a burden on this community and damages the very thing you should stand for, the rights of these people that voted you in. As a citizen, I would ask for this council to exercise your rights given under Local Government Code 22007 to discuss the lack of competence in the mayor, her lack of leadership, and the lack of following the law, and that has forever changed the landscape of our town. There is a lack of confidence, lack of fiduciary responsibility, misconduct, and public shaming concerning her. It is no surprise that the people of this town are at odds with one another because of this behavior. Now is a time for a deep discussion between the principles of this council and the mayor's lack of character and leadership. There seems to be one common denominator in discord in this community, which should be sought out to the fullest degree.
Doug Kendrick?
Doug Kendrick, Holly Creek Poetry. I'll take another terminology of the horses. You know, beating the horse to the glue factory is about the best we can do. When poetry, and I'm going to try to do all this in 3 minutes. When poetry first became a city, it wasn't a few months later that I got an email from whomever, email world, about now people are wanting to decide to now de-annex or whatever they wanted to do. My response then was, you got to give it time. You got to give it time. And the difficulties this community has is being in 2 counties. But you got to give it time. Congratulations, council, tonight. You're learning, growing how we need to start operating as a community and in a whole. Councilman White, hands off to you for even digging into a zoning map, how difficult that is. I know you look around and there are not too many people behind you going like, you know, let's keep working. So, but again, I do stress once again is to get maps correct, because everything we're doing, we're feeding off of maps, and when we're here, and I've been in now the council meetings for quite a while, a few months anyway, it all comes back to a map. You know, which map are we going by, which map? So it's a lot easier. A suggestion too, when y'all are talking about putting the maps on web or whatever, a lot of cities and communities will mount their maps at City Hall. So that way, if there's ever any questions, people will say, well, if you go to Town Hall, you'll see the map, and that map will have whatever, the zoning map, development maps or whatever, boundary maps, so that way all the citizens can see it. So, you know, again, I think we've taken the horse to the glue factory already. Respect for all, and it becomes a better community for everyone. So, again, it's tough to sit there in 7 chairs and do what y'all do, but it helps to hopefully respect each other. And obviously, the community picks up on that. It is, and I will say too, it's quite embarrassing when we have outbreaks in a council meeting, when we have professionals here, like engineers and surveyors and, you know, salespeople, to hear how we operate in the community, and that's not how we are. Because you want these people to be accepted in the community and work with the community. So, hats off to y'all. It's a tough job, and thanks again.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
David Edmund?
Yeah, right. You timing it? Huh? You timing? No, that's a reminder to do something tonight.
David Emmerd. Okay, my wife couldn't be here, so I'm speaking a little bit for her, but a little for me. Whoever put the signs out about the trash service, thank you. She has one tweak though, and I do too. It would be helpful. I became the spokesperson for the north end of this map up here. The people that did not know everything was changing over, because they don't come to this, they don't look on YouTube, they don't do anything. And anyway, there was a network that I wound up setting up there to get the word out. And finally they said, oh, okay. Because where the sign placement was on our end, on the north end of 1565 of Poetry, was down closer to where Bankston Farms takes a left, a little bit short of that. But anyway, there's a lot of people that are on those roads that are in Poetry on 1565, just past the sign, that had no clue. One friend of ours is in the blue house there. But anyway, and then we got it all sorted out. But thank you anyway, whoever put those out. But in future, if y'all do a sign, think about your entry points from every segment if you're going to do a blitz or something. But anyway, thanks for putting those out. Second thing, one thing going back to the last meeting, sermon on this last Sunday was really good. And reconciliation is what I think might be needed for this to all get amended and everything. And that starts with saying you're sorry, whatever, for asking forgiveness if that's needed. And anyway, I highly suggest that to take forward so we can actually become a town. And we can really all get together and start fighting all these things that are coming at us. Because I looked on TxDOT and I saw a new camera that's on 35. It's over there by Highway 35, and it's on their main map for future purpose. They haven't designated it. It's just called a loop on their map, on the TxDOT map. I look at the cameras all the time there. So anyway, thank you for your time. Thanks for all y'all are trying to do. One other comment for the end of my 3 minutes. Try to sever, like at work, if you have issues with a person outside of work, keep them there. Don't bring them to the table when we're doing town business. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, David. Jack Sinkovich?
Well, I agree with what Mike said. Things should be handled more peacefully. Only problem is, Mike, we're 2.5 years too late. This disrespectfulness that we've been seeing and rudeness has been going on in almost every meeting. It's the same people that lost the election, that didn't go the way they liked it. They up here, you just look at the agenda tonight. They want to fuss against everything that comes up to be approved on. I'm disappointed too, Mike. And I agree with you, Terry. Some things should be discussed in private between the council and the mayor instead of brought out of here in a big dog fight that's been going on every 2.5 years. We've talked about, Brady just got up and talked about the page 1 about respect and everything from everybody. This has been ignored the last 2.5 years. I think the council or somebody needs to get together and get this straightened out. There's been so much positive work done. You've all worked so hard, and we have the same negative people every meeting, almost every meeting, and you just go see the tape of the agenda tonight. Argue this, argue that, everything that comes up, negative and negative and negative. All we need is some positiveness. It's sad. I agree with you, Mike, it is sad. And we have a defense of one of the council members tonight. He has been one of the most rudest, disrespectful people to the mayor in this whole council.
Come on, really, council? Really? You're gonna let him continue to do this?
All you have to do is go back and look at the tapes.
Yeah, we see you.
Also, his same comments during the meet and greet was so disrespectful to the mayor, I'm ashamed of it. And I've just got one thing to say to all the naysayers, you lost the election, live with it.
The election has nothing to do with
Okay, all right, point of order. All right, Gary Friedman. Gary Friedman, are you here? Okay. Okay, so I know that Tom will be happy about this. I made someone happy tonight. 9:51, meeting adjourned.